Welcome to St. Kitts, a gorgeous vacation destination cherished by the well-off. This picturesque island paradise is now making a name for itself in the world of high-stakes poker. I'm Lynn Gilmartin, ready to bring you VIP access to our $100,000 Super High Roller event. I'm joined by our own prestigious poker commentators Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet, stationed over in the clubwpt.com skybox. Hi, guys.
Hey, Lynn. Olivier and I are just enjoying a little bit of this Caribbean breeze, as you are. I gotta tell you, there's nothing like poker al fresco.
This tournament's actually become one of the players' favorites. Businessman and high-stakes regular Bill Perkins actually likes to call St. Kitts home and thought this would be a great place for one of our events. And thanks to the help of the Royal Beach Casino and the folks here at Christoph Harbor, here we are.
Last night, the players were treated to a bit of a pre-tournament party where Alpha 8 third-place finisher Jeff Gross from the Florida event showed his strong suit might just be on the dance floor as well as on the felt. And it seems like that relaxed party atmosphere has spilled over into today's action.
High cards, you Seidel. Whoever loses has to go naked. You in?
The players are definitely in a relaxed mood, both because it's still early in the tournament and also the tropical environment.
Settle the break. We get 15 only?
You packed your Speedo, right? We're going in. No, not happening. We've got 3 tables and 22 players to kick off this event, and 5 of them actually have perfect Alpha 8 attendance, those being Jeff Gross, Eric Seidel, Bill Perkins, Florida champion Steven Silverman, and London champion Philip Gruesome.
The businessmen have been giving the pros lots of action. Ray Tabby actually busted in the first hour of play and has already rebought for another $100,000, an option available to all the players during the first 6 levels.
Yeah, Tabby's new seat is at the featured table. The other businessman at that table is Greg Whaley, another new face. 7 players in action, blinds at 3 and 600, and the ante is 100. Each player started with 100,000. Chip leader is Jason Kuhn, and the short stacks belong to Fabian Quas and Bill Perkins.
What are the chances that Fabian runs around at any point naked at Burning Man? Is he?
I mean, just naturally, without us saying anything?
Yeah, just, he's, you know,
It's high.
He's motivated. It's high?
It's high, like, and
I would
by
think
high,
Philip has a much higher chance, no?
Oh yeah, Philip is definitely higher. By high, I mean,
Phil's
like
naked
20%.
all the time. Obviously, there's a much higher chance.
Well, I don't know, I've never really, you know, hung out.
Are you going to Burning Man this year, Olivia?
No, it's not really my scene. What about you?
No, definitely not. Ray folds the Jack-6 offsuit.
That's not going to happen.
Perkins does the same.
You got to do the naked thing. It's so liberating, and it's so normal. Like you walk around naked,
so
there's like thousands of people, and it just feels so normal. Yeah, seriously.
You're still talking about the desert.
Yep.
Find yourself, players.
Yeah.
Greg, come.
Hey,
You won't regret it. I'll bet you won't come this year. You want to bet?
You bet I won't come this year.
Yeah, I'll bet you 5K you don't come.
I'll call.
It's,
Kuhn has raised it to 1,600, and Greg has made the call. Ace-4 against Ace-5 suited.
I bet you 5K. All you got to do is show up for 1 minute inside.
I just got to be the 1 minute.
1 minute and you win 5K.
Antonio takes the concept of table
It's not
captain
easy,
to
but
a whole new level.
Yes, he does.
He's one of the more aggressive players on the circuit, but he's also one of the most talkative, always engaging the other players.
Now, for 5K, we'd go to Burning Man for 1 minute, right, Olivia?
I wouldn't. You can send me a postcard.
It's metagame, though. There's method to the mayhem.
I think there's definitely a strategic element to it. I think Antonio engages the amateurs to try to build a rapport with them to exploit later on.
It's very cash gamey, huh?
And then he also engages some of the very good players to try to distract them and get them off their game.
With amateurs in particular, that can be very effective.
Yeah, especially if you haven't had the experience, you might feel some pressure to kind of continue to engage with him as opposed to like what I do, which is mostly ignore him.
Flop is Ace-Jack-6 with a couple of spades, both players with a pair, and Jason checks.
2,000.
Yeah, after taking the initiative pre-flop, Jason kind of wants to see where this amateur is at. He's got top pair, but not a great kicker, so he doesn't want to put too much money in the pot.
Kuhn is so calm and collected and good.
And Greg has bet 2,000, and Jason calls.
Easy call for Jason.
Calm, collected, and good, you know? Look at that. Doesn't even crack a nudge, nothing.
Turn is a 7. Kuhn checks again.
7 of diamonds adds a couple draws there. Some straight draws and a second flush draw.
5,000.
And Greg bets 5,000 this time. And Kuhn just lays down the ace.
Yeah, that's a pretty conservative fold by Jason.
And you just walk around naked in the desert?
It's always the same. 5K bet Burning Man.
A lot of pros, when they are playing hands with amateurs, they tend to take the more conservative route because they think that they have a post-flop advantage.
Bill Perkins with 8-5 suited. Can't resist the temptation, and he's going to pop it to 2,000.
Yeah, it's a big raise, more than 3 times the blind, and with a, it's probably a function of the fact that his hand is not that strong. I think it's probably better just to fold 8-5 suited than try to steal the blinds with this weak hand.
But it's really important, if you are going to raise to 2,000 with a weak hand, that you also take 2 aces and make the same raise so that you don't give up any information pre-flop.
Yeah, it helps to not be transparent, but I think the best solution is just to fold 8-5 suited in early position. It's just not strong enough a hand.
And after a cold call with Jack-9 offsuit by Greg Whaley, Sorrell with Ace-King offsuit has made it 7,000 total.
So Sorrell with a big hand and in position, an easy 3-bet here. Bill adds insult to injury with his 8-5 suited by calling out of position a relatively large 3-bet.
Greg laid it down, not wanting to make the additional 5K investment, and the flop is 7-deuce-4, all spades. Perkins checks to Sorrell, who's got the nut flush draw and 2 overs.
Yeah, this is a pretty good flop for Sorrell without hitting a pair. He's got the ace of spades, and Bill with just a gut shot and 8 high can't continue.
Well, to Bill's credit, he understands when his hand is not in great shape, and he check folds the flop.
I never thought perky money was so easy.
It's not very easy. He's just calling, fishy. Just trying to get it in, kid. Can't get a flop where I can get it in.
We send it over to one of our outer tables right now, where Timothy Adams and Jeff Gross are locking horns on the board of Jack-9, Ace-Queen-King with 3 hearts, and Jeff Gross has made a runner-runner flush against top 2 pair for Timothy Adams.
Wow, that's a very strange play by Adams to move in here. I think it's because he has the ace of hearts that he's trying to represent a flush. This is a clear bluff by Timothy Adams, hoping maybe that Jeff just has a 10 and will fold.
Well, Jeff does indeed have a 10, but he's got a 10 and an 8, both hearts.
48. Yep. 48.
This is so brutal. Like the nuts, and then.
Yeah, I'm really not sure what Jeff's thinking about. He has the second nuts here. Obviously, he loses to an ace-high flush, but that's the only thing he loses to. He can't really consider folding.
Can understand showing a bit of pause.
Yeah, I think it's more a question of in the lower stakes, people aren't bluffing as often, so he just doesn't expect his opponents to be bluffing as often as they actually are.
But Gross is going to look him up.
Adams is a good enough player that he'll be bluffing sometimes.
I do. That's fun.
I mean, yeah, I know you have ace hearts, just now you figure out. Yeah.
And that sends Timothy Adams in search of a second bullet, or maybe a pool chair.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that bluff. It's an interesting play with the ace of hearts, but I think Jeff is not a player who will be bluffing that often in that situation. So I think it's a dangerous play, and Timothy Adams, probably partly because it's also the rebuy period, decided to take a shot there.
I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the bluff, but I don't know. Sometimes it goes through and you feel really good, and sometimes it doesn't and you feel stupid. So right now I feel stupid. But,
oh no. Well, the good news is it's still early, so the re-entry period's still open. We're gonna see you come back?
Yeah, I'll jump back in.
Back over to the feature table, where an 8th player has joined the action.
What's up, Mike?
Hey, how's it going?
And that would be Mike Mcdonald, who goes by the name Timex. And I understand you two know each other, Olivier.
Yeah, Mike and I are pretty close friends. I think he's one of the better players on the circuit. He's a regular in these big buy-in events. Actually started playing when he was really young. I think he was the youngest winner of an EPT event ever. He won over $1 million when he was just 18 years old. So he's actually been playing for these stakes for a while now, even though he's still in his mid-20s.
Taking a look at the feature table leaderboard, Jason Kuhn comfortably at the top with 149,300, and the 2 short stacks belong to Fabian Quas and businessman Bill Perkins, hovering around 53,000.
Pull-ups are so hard. I'll bet you can't do 20 pull-ups at any point in the next 5 years.
Wow. Okay. How much? How much?
I'll bet you $100.
I'm a fat guy.
You should snap that.
Not enough incentive for Sorrell to start working out all the time.
No, but the ace-queen offsuit, enough incentive to make it 1,500 to go. Antonio folds. Ray Tabby with 7-8 offsuit makes the call, a little liberal.
We continue to see amateurs playing a wider range of hands than the pros.
To be expected.
In a tournament like this, yes, the amateurs tend to be, wealthy enthusiasts who can afford the tournament, and even during the rebuy period can afford a rebuy.
Both Perkins and Kuhn lay down, as does McDonald. Pocket 4s for Greg Whaley in the small blind. He makes the call. And with 8-6 offsuit in the big, Fabian can't resist the pot odds. He'll come along for the ride as well as we take the flop four-handed, and that flop is 8-6-7. Top and bottom pair for Fabian, and top two pair for Ray Tabby, who's got him in a world of hurt.
Check.
Greg checks, and Fabian bets right into the field, 5,000.
I don't love this lead by Fabian. I think if I were to make a lead like this, I would tend to have either a stronger hand or a weaker hand. Maybe a hand like a straight or a set, or maybe a weak hand like just a 9 or maybe pocket 5s, something like that.
Sorrell lays down, and Tabby makes it 15,000 total. Action on Greg Whaley, and he lays it down.
It'll be interesting to see how Fabian decides to move forward.
10,000 to call after Ray made it 15,000 total.
And Fabien's in a strange spot here. He's out of position. He doesn't have a lot of experience with Ray. He knows that since Ray is an amateur and has been playing a number of hands already, that Ray's range is going to be a little bit wider than some of the pros.
I feel like I can go up to Perky and just hug him.
Anytime. Anytime.
Table talk focusing around the huggability index of other players here at the event.
The least huggable person.
Oh.
And Eric Seidel was like the least
That's
huggable.
correct.
It is correct, right? It's like the perfect answer. We gotta start. Can you hug Eric?
And Fabian's going to call the extra 10,000. A lot of cards that he doesn't like might hit the turn, and the Jack of Hearts isn't necessarily one of them.
No, and I think that's part of the reason why Fabian decided to call. If a 9 or a 5 or a 10 did roll off on the turn, Fabian would have a much easier time getting away from his hand.
I want to see you hug Seidel and break. Will you give that to us?
It takes a special moment because it's Seidel is the kind of guy.
Well, yeah, but you can't. So you can't just go up to him and say I would like a hug.
I did not.
Could
because
you?
you got to be on Seidel's. Like you got to catch him at the right time.
Yeah, that's true.
Me and Teddy Bear.
Yeah.
I might have to,
nickname is Huggy
And he's
Bear.
going to lead out a second time into Ray, this time for 13,000.
Yeah, this is a little bit of a strange play, especially considering Fabien's stack size. He's got about a pot-sized bet remaining, so this lead just strikes me as bizarre. I don't think he would have made this play against another pro. This is part of the dynamic that emerges when pros play against amateurs. They play a little bit funky, a little bit different than normal.
Tabby has made it 40,000 total.
Would Mike be more towards most huggable or least huggable?
Not huggable.
Not huggable?
No.
How do you feel? That's feedback, Mike. How do you feel about that?
I thought I would have been a top 10 least huggable person.
Least huggable?
Yeah.
Would have been my guess, yeah.
Your energy is not like come hug me.
Not super positive
No.
or anything like that.
No.
Standoffish.
It's not standoffish, it's just not huggable.
Yeah, so now Fabian has to make a decision for his tournament life. Personally, if I had made a lead like this, I would have already decided before I bet what I was going to do if I was raised all in.
Oh! Fabian makes the call, and he's going to get the bad news.
Call.
He's in a world of hurt, praying for a 6 on the river to win the pot outright, or a Jack would give these two a chop. And the river is a 3. No help to Fabian.
See you later.
And he is going to head in search of a second bullet.
I think part of the reason Fabian was willing to call off here was because it's still in the rebuy period, and he knows if he busts that he'll have another chance.
From what you were saying, the Germans tend to buy in again.
Yeah, the Germans come to these tournaments deep-pocketed. I expect to see Fabian definitely rejoin us at some point later on today.
Well, we'll let him hit the hotel room safe and step away for a moment. Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Thank you guys for coming down, supporting the island, supporting St. Kitts, my homeland. You'll find that it's a wonderful place to stay, play, and have fun.
Located 1,300 miles southeast of Miami, situated between the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, St. Kitts is a wonderful, unspoilt island paradise. Taking a look around, it's easy to see why bringing Alpha 8 to this luxurious locale was always in the cards.
It's a prestigious event, first of all. It's high quality, it's the best of the best, and that's what St. Kitts is about.
In the playground of the rich and famous, the stakes are always high, and Alpha 8 is no exception. $100,000 ponied up by each of our players today.
Yeah, this is hands down the coolest set. Maybe, actually, I'll rephrase it. Hands down the coolest tournament I've ever played.
All right, I'll take that.
It's definitely, I'm just trying to think of something better.
Yeah, I mean, you're
can't-
more Hollywood, you know? So you've probably played, like, on a private jet.
Well,
Against
Let's go over to one of our outer tables where Philip Gruesome has Jack 10 suited against Michael Singh's Jack 6 suited on the Jack 4-7 board. And on the river, the 10 plays. Philip with the best hand. Michael checks it to him. And Gruesome's going to bet 20,000.
I don't envy Michael in this situation. Philip, our London champion, a very aggressive, unpredictable player, very, very capable of bluffing in all types of different spots. I can't imagine Michael getting away from 3 jacks here.
Give the amateur credit for thinking about it, though. He didn't just snap call, and after calling the 20,000, realizes his kicker is no good.
And that's part of Philip's reputation as an unpredictable and aggressive player. He tends to get paid off a lot more than some of the other pros.
Back over at the feature table where the blinds have gone up to 4 and 800. Antonio raised pre-flop with ace-4 suited to 2,000. He was called by Ray Tabby's 9-6 suited, and along for the ride is Mike Mcdonald with 7-8 offsuit. Flop is ace-4-5, 2 clubs.
A little bit of everything on this flop. Antonio with top and bottom pair, Ray Tabby with a flush draw, and even Mike Mcdonald has a gut shot straight draw here.
McDonald has checked it over to Antonio, and with 7,100 in the middle, Antonio bets 38.
Healthy bet here after raising the 2,000 pre-flop. Trying to build the pot. I like the size of this bet. Ray Tabby with 9 high club draw. I can't imagine him folding. He's probably deciding whether he wants to raise or just call.
Looks like just a call. Mike folds, leaving these 2 heads up with 14,700 in the middle.
This is known as the Persian War.
And the turn, right color, wrong suit for Ray, king of spades.
Not a terrible card for Antonio. Top and bottom pair still figures to be best, and I would make a nice healthy bet here, trying to extract more value from my opponent.
How do you feel about 8,200?
It's a little on the smaller side than I would like, but still, more than half the pot. It's a good size.
Over to Ray Tabby.
I think Ray benefits from being in position here. I think out of position would be a little bit tougher to call with such a weak draw, but in position, when you're the last to act on the river, I don't mind the call here.
And Ray does make the call, and the river's a king, which counterfeits Antonio's aces up.
Yeah, it's not the worst card in the world for Antonio, but it's not a great card. Now he just has an ace with the 5 on the board as his kicker.
Well, Antonio has chosen to check, and Ray is betting 16,200. Gutsy bluff.
He's in position. He missed his draw, but Antonio showed some weakness by checking on the river. And Ray taking a shot here with a missed draw. I like the play.
Well, now it's up to Antonio to decide what Ray was calling with on the flop and on the turn, let alone pre-flop. And a bigger ace than ace-5 certainly figures into his range.
What do you have, Reza?
Something good.
Something good like a bluff?
And Antonio going to work on Tabby.
Huh? Mr. Tabby?
Maybe.
I don't think you should move at all when Antonio's looking at you. Antonio's very good at picking up on things like this, especially from amateur players. The problem here is that Ray is trying to act comfortable. When you're bluffing, you're uncomfortable. And so he's trying to act like he wants to call, like he's very comfortable with Antonio.
You got it. No flush. Nice hand.
Yeah, very nice.
Oh, I thought you were going to punish him. Pro gets away with it. All in would have definitely worked.
All in, I call faster.
This is one of the things that separates Antonio from some of the other pros, especially some of the more online-based pros. Antonio is incredible at making these types of reads.
Ray Jun, you try and steal my money, huh?
The pro gets away in the first Persian War Part 2. He wins that one.
Yeah.
Action continues from St. Kitts after this.
Looking for high roller excitement without the high roller risk? Go to clubwpt.com now and play in our Alpha 8 high roller play chip tournaments and ring games for a chance to be crowned champion.
Well, scenes like that can only mean one thing. We're back here in beautiful St. Kitts for the continuation of the WPT Alpha 8 event here at Christoph Harbor, courtesy of the Royal Beach Casino. And Olivier, 23 players remain in action, 2 of whom have just rebought.
That's right. Seasoned pros Timothy Adams and Fabian Quas have both decided to rejoin us, putting up another 100,000. Timothy Adams here at our feature table.
That brings their total investment to a cool 200K. Also in for a second bullet is the big stack at the feature table, Ray Tabby. Second in chips is Antonio Esfandiari.
All right, I got one, okay?
Yeah.
So, the man with no stop, you know him better than I do.
Correct.
So I'll give you edge, all right?
All right.
How many women does he think Jason Kuhn has slept with in his life, okay?
How many people?
Yeah.
I don't think I have any edge out of that one, but.
Whatever.
Okay.
All
You're
right?
gonna write the number down.
No, just whisper it to Tim or Miz or whatever. Whatever you think, okay?
Oh, it looks like a game of Laden Thinks is broken out at the feature table. Invented by Antonio and Phil Ivey. Olivier, I know you've played it before. It is essentially trivia where the real answer to the question doesn't even matter.
Right, it's actually a betting game where two or more players are betting on whether they can come closer to an answer that a third person has come up with to some question.
We're playing 5K, you want in? Sure. All right, Greg, when you have your number, whisper it to Tim, okay?
And the question on this occasion is a little bit racy.
Now remember, the actual answer itself doesn't matter, just what the third person is guessing the answer is.
So, Olivia, how many women do you think Jason Kuhn has slept with?
I'm not gonna go there.
Ray Tabby cold call with Queen 9 suited. It's over to Mike McDonald with Jack 9 off.
It's the second time we've seen an early position raise from 8-5 suited. I don't know what the attraction is to this hand. I really don't think it's the great hand. It's just not strong enough to play in early position.
And raise to 3,600.
Well, Greg Whaley's got a hand that's strong enough to play from just about anywhere. Ace-King off suit, and he's going to re-raise, but to only 3,600.
Yeah, after Sorrell's original raise to 2,000, 3,600 is way too small. I would expect at least 7,000 or 8,000 from a re-raise.
Good.
Yeah, you're neither going to narrow the field or gain any information from your opponents.
Both players call.
The number's out?
You have the number, Tim?
Yeah.
And the flop is Ace, Deuce, 4 with a couple of spades.
All right, let's go.
17.
I'll bet 3,000.
While the Laden Thinks action continues between Antonio and Bill, Greg has bet 3,000 with Ace-King off suit.
Again, showing a little bit of inexperience with relation to bet sizing. This bet is too small. And, you know, Sorrell, I don't think it would have mattered really how large the bet was. He wasn't going anywhere with his huge
I don't
draw.
know. What did you say?
26.
I did not say 26.
What'd you say? 13?
He looks like he's 22 to me. I said 7.
Turn card is a 9.
In 10th grade.
Oh, you did 7 by 10th grade?
No, that's not true.
That's 1 unit for me, Perky.
Yeah, okay.
So Antonio has won round 1 of Laden Thinks.
It was 1 by 10th grade.
Wow, I thought you would have been easily higher than that.
10,000.
Meanwhile, Whaley bets 10,000 on the turn. Quick call from Sorrell. Not getting creative with the two-way draw, and Mizzy makes a pair of 5s on the river.
Not a great card for Greg, but unfortunately for Sorrell, he didn't make either his straight or his flush.
Not a great card because there's 4 to a wheel out there, but that's not going to slow the amateur down. He bets 18,000.
Still confident in his hand with Ace-King. Sorrell now, I don't think he's really thinking about calling with his pair of 5s. He's probably thinking about bluffing. I think because he's playing against an amateur, he doesn't expect to get as many folds as he would against a pro, so smartly decides to get away.
Yeah, it takes the bluff out of his arsenal a little bit there.
Yeah, I like the way Sorrell played the hand. I think I would have played it the same exact way.
All right, how much for Kuhn to shave his head right now? How much would he have to be paid? Greg, don't say it, okay?
There you go, get a look.
That's the thing about Laden Thinks. It never really ends. As long as you can think of a question, the game just keeps going.
Right. Perky?
You go first.
All right, 5,000.
Under. All right, done.
God, please say lower, just to hurt Mizzy. One time, you know?
I'll give you 4 to 1 on more. No?
What was the number?
To shave his head?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
The only answer you guys are going to answer is I have too much money.
Oh, yes.
I said 150 grand.
Jason doesn't have that much hair. I think it would be a little bit less than 150.
Yeah, definitely not a $150,000 mop up there.
His head's gonna grow right back. He's a young guy.
You paid somebody $500,000 for a tattoo, for Christ's sake.
It's permanent. He can't remove it.
It's under his
hair
shirt.
grows back.
And the person who Bill Perkins paid $500,000 to get that tattoo happens to be here right now. His name is Jeff Gross.
Yeah, Jeff actually has an egg-shaped rainbow flag tattooed on the top of his back, courtesy of a $500,000 payment from Bill Perkins.
Would you have done it?
I can't say that I would have.
I would have done it.
It's a hefty price, though.
I wouldn't have done it. Oh, wait, there's poker going on? I'm sorry. Ace-jack offsuit for Antonio. He raised to 1,800. He's been called by the 10-9 suited of Ray Tabby. And now Bill Perkins looks at two queens.
This is part of the issue of engaging like this at the table. When you get dealt a hand that you want to play, you got to kind of reorient yourself from the conversation and then focus again on the poker.
And Perkins makes it 10,000 total. That's a big 3-bet, and now Jason Kuhn looks at ace-king off.
Yeah, 10,000 is definitely a big 3-bet. I don't mind it, though, with his stack size and a lot of early position action already.
Well, Kuhn is re-raised to 24,000, and that makes Mike McDonald's pocket eights look not so good, and he knows it as he pitches them.
I think Jason, he's willing to commit his chips to basically to Perkins' stack. Perkins only starting the hand with under 50,000 in chips. I think if they were both deeper, Jason would consider just calling, but instead, he's willing to commit to Perkins' stack here with ace-king off.
Antonio and Ray both fold.
I got ladies and gentlemen. Snap call. I think I'm beat.
Really? Ace-king.
No, I'm ahead. It's a race. Fair fight. Let's go.
Jason had already decided to call off Perkins' stack if he moved in, which he did with his pocket queens, and they're off to the races.
Yeah, he had a plan, but it didn't involve being up against a set of queens on the flop. As you see Bill's queens improving. And the turn leaves Jason Kuhn drawing dead. The river will be but a formality as they'll count the chips down.
Easy, Tiger.
Easy.
No, I'm like 0 for 7 in these.
You on the poor guy, you know? That was not very huggable.
No.
Did you say that was huggable?
Get in.
Cost me like $1 zillion in lots of things.
Antonio never shies away from an opportunity to needle someone after they've lost a pot.
Nice hand.
Thank you, sir. Pretty good at that.
I'm eventually just gonna, like, people are gonna say I'm the luckiest human alive. Because, yeah, I mean, we've all been there. I'm like 0 for 7 lately in massive spots with ace, king, to queens.
Yeah, Jason, not too happy about losing that flip. He would have had a nice stack with about 200,000. Instead, he's back to starting stack.
Oh my gosh, do we have to see that?
Oh, come on. This is like a bad news anchor. You're supposed to wear pants at the poker table.
At least a bathing suit.
Come on. Sun, sand, and a little bit of surf here at Christoph Harbor, where the WPT Alpha 8 St. Kitts continues. We are down, however, to just 22 players, and a very lonely-looking Tony Guglietti is the man who just busted out, but that's not a bad walk to take, Olivier, is it?
It's probably the best scenario you could bust out of a 100,000 tournament.
I believe it. Antonio Esfandiari has been moved from the feature table to the outer table to rebalance the action. And we find him involved in a pot with Igor Kurganov. Antonio has top set up against Kurganov's set of sixes, and the board reads ace 10, 6, 7, 9 with 3 spades.
Obviously, both Antonio and Igor with very, very strong hands. Yeah. But Igor, set over setted, not much he can do.
He check called 42,000 on the river.
Could have been worse. Guess it could have been worse, right? Absolutely. Freaking river card.
Is Antonio complaining about the river there after getting paid off? Did that happen?
Yeah, well, you want to make sure you maximize when you do cooler people, so I understand him feeling a little bit unlucky, though. It's nice to end up having set over set.
And back over to the feature table, where the action is now 7-handed. The button is on Ray Tabby. Bill Perkins and Jason Kuhn in the blinds. It's been raised to 2,000 in the cutoff by Sorel Mizzi. And Ray Tabby has smooth called with ace-queen offsuit. And Jason Kuhn is just called with his pocket nines. Here comes the flop. It is ace 4-9 with a couple of diamonds.
It's a dangerous flop for Ray here, having top pair with a good kicker.
38.
Sorel, the pre-flop raiser, bets, and he is way behind against Tabby's ace-queen. And of course, the hand we haven't even touched on, Jason Kuhn with middle set.
Yeah, Jason Kuhn just in a dream spot here with the original raiser betting, the amateur raising, and him sitting on middle set here with 3 nines.
He's made it 21,000 total. Sorel folds, and now it's over to Ray.
This is an extremely aggressive play. Ray Tabby doesn't have a lot of experience playing high-stakes poker, but when it goes bet, raise, re-raise on the flop here, ace-queen definitely shrinks up in terms of its relative size.
But what do? Do you just call and then hope that the guy checks behind on the turn, which is so unlikely, or do you just sail off?
I think you just fold here with ace-queen. I mean, you just have one pair, so.
Tabby goes for option D. That is a re-raise to 49,000.
All in.
And Kuhn goes all in for 99.4 total.
Call.
Tabby quickly calls, and this pot is over 200K,
This is
Olivier.
an absolutely massive pot here. Ray Tabby simply overplaying his pair of aces with a queen kicker.
Showing a little bit of his noviceness.
Yeah, a little bit of inexperience here. I mean, it's, you know, he does have a pretty good hand, but it's just not strong enough to put this many blinds in. And Jason Kuhn just in a dream spot with middle set against this opponent.
Well, Tabby does have Kuhn covered, so he isn't being forced to consider a third bullet just yet. Now, you saw a lot of the players get up and leave before the conclusion of this hand, and that had something to do with the break that we're enjoying right now. And Lynn Gilmartin has headed out to the pool to chat with Antonio Esfandiari.
Antonio, welcome to paradise. How good's this?
I think it's the best place. We were talking about it earlier, and I was trying to think of some place better that I played poker, and I can't think of one. So I think it's a bold statement saying it's the best place I ever played poker, but I can't think of somewhere better, so I'm saying it without saying it.
All right, now how's the action? What's going on?
It's good. I was at a fantastic table.
Yeah.
And then I got moved to another table, which was kind of tilting because there's like 4 Germans and all the pros, and you know. And then, but I just got set over set against Igor, so that was kind of nice.
I am gonna.
I am gonna kill you.
Oh my God!
That was fast.
I'm so glad I didn't look down at that moment. I didn't look down. I'm safe.
Wonder how much Bill paid for that.
What happened earlier?
Well, Perkins said,
How much money you guys got pants Antonio right now?
and I was like, Amy, what do you mean? Thank you for giving me that idea. Oh, wow. I was going to do it for free.
Free pants, go. Yo, yo.
You know, so I just like didn't even think about it, and I just like ran up to him and did the underwear thing like while he was doing the interview. If I didn't take that spot or take that opportunity, like I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. It was just so perfect.
I am gonna kill you, kid. You know, a real man would have just stood there like this.
Yeah.
And he might not be sleeping tonight thinking about what was seen.
You guys should make it like a really small blur, like when you're blurring it out for the WPT, and then just like keep the bush there, you know?
Thank you, Sorel Mitzi, for basically a moment that's going to go down in poker tournament history.
And haunt me for the rest of my life.
All right. Now, during the break, Steven Silverman busted out, but as you know, Olivier, 100K will get you right back in. So Steven became the 4th player to rebuy so far in the event. And we move on to our feature table and getting a look at the stacks. Currently, Jason Kuhn is in the lead. Timothy Adams on the short stack. Blinds have gone up to 6 and 1200, and the ante is 200. Greg Whaley is on the button. Timothy and Sorel in the blinds, and Ray Tabby first to act. Lays down Jack 7 suited. King 5 suited for Bill Perkins. And it looks like he doesn't want to fold.
Yeah, King 5 suited, not the worst hand to raise with, but
better than smooth calling.
Yes, that's true. Definitely, you know, in the bottom, hopefully in the bottom end of Bill Perkins' range here.
Keyword there, hopefully, as Perkins made it 3,000 to go. Jason Kuhn now over to Greg Whaley on the button with ace-8 offsuit.
Was it 3,000?
Oh, looked like he was going to call, but lays it down.
Thinks better of it. I agree with that fold with ace-8 off, even though he's on the button. It's not a hand that plays particularly well in raised pots.
One Canadian down in the blind.
Don't leave home without Sorel.
Nope, it's not a party until I get here.
Sorel capping the action from the big blind, getting a good price, decides to see a flop with 10-6 suited.
Well, Sorel picks up middle pair, but the real story is Bill Perkins with top pair and bottom set for Jason Kuhn. Sorel checks to Bill.
Yeah, Jason in his second consecutive situation where he has a set against an amateur's top pair. Really just types of situations that you dream about as a pro playing these big tournaments.
Perkins fires 6,000, and with this board texture, you can understand why Kuhn would just call.
Yeah, he's in position here, so he'll be able to get that last bet on the river. And I agree with this call. Just hope that your opponent continues to fire.
Turn puts a 9 of hearts out there.
Bill checks here on the turn, having picked up a flush draw here. I like this check. His kicker is not great, but he does have additional equity with the flush draw, so he can't get pushed out of the hand. assuming he decides to just check call, which is what I would do in this situation.
Kuhn bets 11,000.
Now, the real interesting question will be if Bill misses his flush, is he able to get away from this hand on the river?
Bill calls the 11, 45,000 in the middle, and the board pairs on the end. Bill improves his kicker, but Kuhn's got a full house.
Yeah, Bill now plays the 9 on the board as his kicker. But still, if Jason had any king in his hand, he would have a better kicker himself. King Jack, King Queen, all those hands beat Bill. So Bill right now really doesn't beat any value hands that Jason has, and there aren't that many reasonable bluffs for Jason to have. There weren't not many draws on the flop, and I think Bill should really consider folding this hand.
Well, Perkins can't resist the temptation, calls the 25-1, and seems a little frustrated about it.
Nice hand. That hurt.
Yeah, you see this situation a lot in tournaments. Amateurs are expecting the professionals to be bluffing them a lot, and because of that, they call down a lot. But the reality is that pros are very rarely bluffing amateurs, at least compared to other pros, and it's for that exact reason, because amateurs are so likely to pay off.
Lessons learned here in St. Kitts. Back with more in a bit. There's a lot more to Lynn's interview with Antonio. Want to see what you missed? Log on to clubwpt.com/alpha8 and check out the A8 clip of the week. It's all there on clubwpt.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free. Here are the chip counts at our feature table. Jason Kuhn is up over $250,000, while Timothy Adams still on the short stack. Button is on Adams. Sorrell and Ray in the blinds, and Bill Perkins kicks off the action with a suited connector, raising to 3,000. You like these hands in no limit tournaments?
This particular hand, I actually don't mind. I think when you start getting gaps in your connections, 9-6 suited, 8-5 suited, then I think you're raising too often. But the 9-8 suited, I don't mind.
Timothy Adams is all in with ace-king offsuit.
How much is that?
Perkins is actually asking for a count here.
33%. 33.333.
Yeah, I don't know what Bill's thinking about with just 9 high.
How many hours we have left to the rebuy?
Oh, that gives us a clue.
End of this level is the rebuy?
Call.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure why the rebuy period would influence this call. Bill has over 80,000 in chips, so rebuy would only give him 100,000, so.
This is a rebuy.
Looks like he just wants to gamble and see what happens. And he's actually not in the worst shape against ace-king offsuit.
Absolutely beautiful hand. You see how sad Tim is. That's a beautiful hand.
Who's all in?
He's all in. He is.
Antonio is still in his underwear.
Yeah, come on.
You're a big favorite. Sorry, Tim.
Here comes the flop. It's King 7-4, much to Timothy Adams' relief.
Pretty bad flop.
All heart board.
I don't think.
10 of hearts making
Not so good for 8-9 suited.
No, the 6 gives him some outs, though, on the turn.
Always.
It's never easy. That's what Timothy Adams thinking. And the river pairs the board. So Adams will double through Perkins.
I really didn't want to have to go rebuy again.
Timothy, that was courtesy of the rebuy period ending soon.
No, of course.
Yeah. You felt good when I said that.
Yeah.
Moving over to the outer table where Igor is playing Shutterbug/Paparazzi, we find Max Altergott and Isaac Haxton engaged in a pot. And Altergott apparently is a lifeguard here at St. Kitts.
He does have that look, especially with his knee up on the table. Ike and Max, both two very, very tough competitors. Not guys you really want to tangle with if you can avoid it.
Well, speaking of avoiding things, Isaac couldn't avoid the gift shop. They lost his luggage on the way out here, so I feel like Isaac might be sponsored by Tommy Bahama or something at this point. Back over to the featured table. Sorrell Mitzi with ace-jack offsuit makes it 3,000 to go.
All in.
And Perkins ships all 50,900 into the middle with king-jack suited.
Yeah, this is a huge bet here from Bill when the blinds are just 6 and 12, continuing in his, willingness to get his chips in the middle in anticipation of a rebuy.
You want action?
Whatever you want to do, kid.
I don't have a great hand, but if you're in a gambling mood, I might just.
Sorrell's saying he doesn't have a great hand, though he's dominating Bill's hand.
Whatever you
He
want to
can't know that, though.
Yeah, I think ace-jack against Bill, you probably have to call here.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to call, and then I want to win.
What he wants is 100,000 chips.
That's what I want.
And he either wants to give you his 50 and go buy them, or he wants to take your 50.
That's what he wants, right?
Yes. Either way.
The reason Sorrell's thinking about this is because Bill has so many chips.
Let's gamble.
Let's gamble.
Oh, I thought it was because Sorrell's not a billionaire.
Oh, don't like that. One out. Let's go.
From a strategic point of view, against a guy like Bill Perkins, who just called off almost 30 big blinds with 8-9 suited, you'd think it'd be easier to call with ace-jack, but 50,000 chips is a lot.
Be gentle. I know it's going to be a sweat either way. Well,
Make it all
it's
hard.
not going to be easy. Oh.
Look at this flop, Olivier. Queen 4-9, 2 hearts.
This is not a great flop for Sorrell, obviously.
Is he a favorite?
It's like exact.
Is it?
He's still in the lead right now. And the turn tears the board.
That's a very good card.
Bill looking for a 10, a king, or a heart.
Ugh, right color, wrong suit on 2 occasions.
That's it. See you in a sec.
And Perkins will head over to the cashier and drop off another 100 pack.
I knew it wasn't going to be easy.
Yeah.
Gamble, right? He wants to gamble. I want to gamble.
Bill,
Hi.
you're the man of the event.
Yes.
Sad to see you go.
Oh, well, I'm coming back.
You coming
It
back?
is sad to see me go, but I'm coming back.
You're coming back. The,
Yes.
the re-entry period's still open.
Yes.
Now, was that always the intention? You were always going to have 2 bullets at least?
Yeah, well, I got myself into a situation where I want to go into the next level with the amount of chips I had, so I had to open up a little bit more aggressive. So I was going to either have 100,000 chips or not. I had 50,900. Got it in and lost.
All right, well, but you're happy about coming back?
Are you kidding? I'm ecstatic about coming back.
This must feel like a
Ecstatic.
home game for you. You got so many of your friends here.
Yeah, it
having
is.
a good
It's
time.
awesome. We're swimming, we're hanging out, playing bocce ball. It's a good time.
All right, well, go and rebuy and we'll see you.
See you
Come
soon.
back.
Bye-bye.
Well, it's a good time that just got a little bit more expensive for Bill Perkins as we draw the curtain on day 1 action. Olivier, your thoughts?
Well, Bill's re-entry marks 5 for the tournament, which is actually the same number that we had both in London and Florida combined. I think the relaxed atmosphere has made the players a little bit looser.
Yeah, I think they all packed a lot of money, is actually what it is. On behalf of Lynn, Gil Martin, and Olivier Bousquet, I'm Ali Najad saying good night from St. Kitts.
The tranquil evening air of the tropics has set the stage for red-hot, high-stakes poker. This is WPT Alpha 8. St. Kitts is an island paradise known for its charm and natural beauty, but this serene setting has shifted gears as WPT Alpha 8 has moved in to host an international field of adventurous poker players. Joining me for all the fun are 2 guys who know all about parties and poker, Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet, stationed over in the clubwpt.com skybox. Hi guys.
Hello, Lynn. To be fair, you're the one that seems to be out by the pool. We're up here in the skybox, and while the temperatures have cooled off, one thing is for certain, the poker action never ever does with this crew, does it, Olivier? And we get a look now at some of what these guys were up to earlier, including diving into the ocean, which of course caused some people to lose their pants.
Oh my gosh, do we have to see that?
And set the stage for some high-stakes pranks.
Your underwear, because
I am gonna.
Now, the re-entry/registration period is nearly over, and we currently have 21 players spread out across 3 tables here in St. Kitts. 6 of them are at the feature table, and the big stack belongs to Jason Kuhn. Short stack at the table belongs to Timothy Adams. Button will be on Mike Mcdonald, better known as Timex. He's got roughly what he started with at 101,200. Couple of businessmen in the mix at this table, including Ray Tabby. He takes a peek at 3-5 offsuit. Blinds are at 6 and 1,200. Antes are at 200. And Tabby avoids a sub-premium entry with that 3-5 off. Over to Jason Kuhn with King 8 suited in the cutoff. He's going to raise it up to 3,200. And the man they call Timex, Mike Mcdonald, looks down at aces.
Great spot here for Mike with pocket aces on the button. Usually not going to be given as much credit as normal since the button is the best position at the table.
Any argument in favor of just calling in this spot, or you don't want to tempt the blinds in?
You could decide to trap and play aces slow and just call, but I think Mike is normally going to be 3-betting a number of weaker hands, so he's going to want to include some strong hands to offset that.
And he has 3-bet it to 9,000, both blinds out of the way, and it's back over to Jason. Well, he doesn't seem ready to give up on his king-8 suited just yet.
22-5.
And he's going to re-raise to 22,500.
So he decides to 4-bet here, I think, because of what we talked about, the button being a position that players will 3-bet a little bit more liberally than other positions. He's not giving Mike as much credit. On top of that, his raise to 22.5 represents almost 25% of Mike's total stack, so it's a good percentage to raise to because you force your opponent to have a real hand if he's going to continue.
Yeah, so he's got a little bit of information about Mike's hand. Mcdonald didn't, of course, put in a 5-bet, just called, and now Jason has given up on the flop, just checking it over to Mike.
Yeah, I think Jason is really recognizing the texture of this flop. 9-10 queen is going to be a board that's going to hit a lot of Mike's range here, whether he has pocket 10s or a hand like king queen suited. In general, I think this is a good recognition of Jason to just make his move pre-flop and then on this board recognize that it's not good for him to continue and get away with a minimal loss.
Don't chase bad money with good money, right? Jonathan Duhamel has joined the party. You may recognize him as a former World Series of Poker main event champion. Not a lot of those names floating around.
And Jonathan is probably one of the best main event champions of the past 10 years. He's really able to distinguish himself beyond just winning that one tournament. He's actually a regular in these high-stakes tournaments and has done fairly well.
It's for sure proven.
He's going to be under the gun in his first hand, which is queen 3 suited.
Just one kid to care.
He'll get away. Tabby lays down as well, and it's Jack 10 suited for Jason Kuhn.
Another playable hand for Jason.
32.
Making it 3,200 again.
You did? Yeah. It went check bet, or?
Yeah.
Folded to the other Canadians at the table. Adams out of the way in the small blind, and Sorrell won't defend from the big either. You know, Jason has shown a lot of heart so far in this event. The kind of heart that I suspect played a part in his thrill-seeking with Lynn Gilmartin.
I'm joined by Jason Kuhn in St. Kitts, and this man loves a good challenge, so we're putting him up to one completely off the felt and in the Caribbean Sea. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
All right. Oh yeah, he's ready.
All right, baby steps, baby steps. Slide to the left, slide to the right. Oh yeah, baby! Woo! That was sick!
You're officially the Iron Man of poker.
I'll take it.
Well done.
Thank you.
I'm jealous.
Well, get out there.
You know
You got
I want
underwear,
to.
you don't need a bikini. This is Alpha 8!
All right, last time I checked, Iron Man was 3 events, so I don't know if just flyboarding is going to earn him the title.
Well, I know that Jason used to run track in college, and he's known in the poker world for his athleticism and in particular his fitness, so I think we can give him the title.
Well, Bill Perkins is known in the poker world as having a lot of disposable income, and he's put another 100,000 of that to work here, having purchased his second bullet. Players all too happy to see him still in the mix.
Perkins seated at one of our outer tables.
Back at the feature table now. Action's been folded around to Sorrell Mitzi in the cutoff, and he makes it 2,400 to go with king 10 off. It's a min raise.
Nice little price.
Yep,
Well.
giving Jason a good price.
Talk me into it.
Never turned down a good deal.
Though Jason was not going anywhere with ace-jack, settles on just calling from the big blind to see a flop.
And that flop, 2 queens and a king. Jason checking.
Little something for both players. Sorrell flopping top pair, and Jason with ace-high plus a gut shot straight draw.
Sorrell bets 3,000.
I think Jason is normally going to peel one off here with ace-jack. His ace could be good enough. Not to mention, if he hits a straight, he might win a big pot.
Oh, speaking of which, there's the magic 10 ball. Kuhn makes Broadway. Sorrell doesn't take the bait after it's checked to him, however. Checks behind, and the river's a 3.
I think Sorrell checks because his kicker doesn't play anymore, and if Jason had a queen, then obviously Sorrell was in bad shape.
Well, Jason's betting 16,000 on the river. This is massive.
Yeah, this is a huge bet, more than the size of the pot. I'm not sure why Jason elected this particular situation to overbet, trying to make his hand look like a bluff and get paid off here from Seidel. But Seidel too smart for that play and gets away from his king, really losing the minimum there after flopping top pair.
Yeah, not buying what Jason was selling on that particular occasion. Now, the registration and rebuy period is over, which means, of course, that our field is set. And we've got 22 active players, Olivier.
That's right, we had 23 unique players with 28 total entries. Tony Guglietti being the only player who busted and didn't rebuy.
No one's been on a third bullet, but when we return to St. Kitts, the hunt for the title really gets underway.
Looking for high roller excitement without the high roller risk?
Then go to clubwpt.com and sign up for our Alpha 8 High Roller Play Chip tournaments for a chance to be crowned champion.
There's a seat waiting for you right now at clubwpt.com.
It's so hot here. Why do people want hot food?
I think it is something that came from the old days, what the folks brought that across from Africa and India, Indian tradition. So the spicier it is, it's all the best.
So this is just straight pepper?
Straight pepper, that's all that's in there right now.
Oh, I want to stick my face in that barrel.
Don't go too much.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, that's strong, yeah. Why didn't I have my chaser prepared? Love it. It's coming home with me.
You a hot sauce guy?
I'm more of a poker guy. Let's get back to the cards.
You're no fun. We should set up a prop bet.
Why'd you want to
versus
stick her face in the barrel?
Because that's a natural thing to want to do when you're faced with a bucket of pure peppers. Getting back to that poker you're so fond of, the prize pool is now set. $2.71 million and change. First place worth over $1 million, and now the intensity is going to start to creep in, isn't it? Pocket sevens for Sorel Mitzi, who makes it $3,500 to go. Ace King for Jonathan Duhamel.
That's a bad
It's not a good sign.
Duhamel just calling with Ace King.
I'm not sure if there's any real reason for John to just smooth call besides just trying to mix up his play.
Tabby also along with 10-9 suited.
I like this play in this position from Ray.
Folded over to Greg Whaley in the small blind. Timothy Adams in the big blind. Doesn't want to play along. And we'll take the flop three-way. 6 deuce tray, raggedy looking board. Sorel likes it. He's got an overpair and bets 6,800.
Very, very strong flop for 2 sevens. Not much more you can ask for without actually flopping a third seven.
Duhamel hasn't connected with this board at all, but it's not going to stop him from trying to take this pot with a raise to 18,500.
It's kind of an odd play from John. He's not representing very many hands. And this is something that you see as the poker world has changed in the last 5 or 10 years. You see people are just calling on the flop much more. And
well, what's he representing?
He's really just representing a set. I don't think he would credibly play 4-5, maybe 4-5 suited, probably not even call pre-flop with that hand.
Certainly plenty of respect for Jonathan's game as we move to one of our outer tables and catch up with Michael Singh and Philip Gruesome in a pot. And look at this board, Queen 8, 10 ace with 2 hearts, top 2 pair for Michael Singh, and the nuts for Philip Gruesome, but Singh has a flush draw.
Singh does have a flush draw.
And Singh is all in here and connects on the end with a heart. And that's going to put a decent dent in Philip's stack.
Yeah, tough beat there for Philip. Philip really one of the most feared players on the high-stakes circuit. Very aggressive and a little bit unpredictable. I think a lot of the other players are going to like to see this transfer of chips over from Philip to the amateur Michael.
I'm still up for today.
Up 100?
Yeah.
Philip, of course, our London champ, able to maintain a positive attitude.
We always hear about German engineering, but what about German optimism? You got a little look at it there.
It's the new generation of young Germans.
Back to the featured table. Now, apparently, Sorel didn't relinquish his starting hand from the last pot as it's been dealt right back to him. And again, he makes it 3,500 with the pocket sevens. And Ray Tabby with 8-7 offsuit.
In our previous show, we saw Ray win a big pot with 8-7 offsuit. Maybe he feels it's a lucky hand for him. He's continuing to play it.
You don't have a lucky hand, Olivia?
Well, I like pocket aces. That's one of my favorites.
What a boring answer. Come on.
It's definitely not 8-7 offsuit.
Timothy Adams wants to join the fun with deuce 4 suited from the big blind, and the flop is 6-10 tray with a couple of clubs.
Not a bad flop for 2 7s, but definitely a better flop for Timothy Adams. Even though he doesn't have a pair, he has a gut shot straight draw plus a flush draw.
And Tabby's also got something.
Yeah, Tabby has a gutter. Any 9 would make him a straight.
6,300 to call from Sorrell, and Ray's not going away with a draw. Action on Timothy now.
Yeah, Tim's not going anywhere. He's either going to raise or call here.
Opting for just a call, and this pot is up to over 31,000. The turn card is a 4, giving Adams a pair and changing the hand a bit.
Yeah, this is a card that's going to hit all 3 players. Adams now makes a pair, Sorrell makes a straight draw, and Ray Tabby actually makes a 2-way straight draw. If a 5 were to come, Tabby would actually have the best hand because it would be a straight up to an 8, even though Sorrell would only have a straight up to a 7. This is going to give a straight draw in the other direction as well, so now any 5 or 9 would give him a straight.
And on the river, there's the 5. Timothy Adams has the dummy end of the straight and checks it over to Sorrell, who has the good end of the straight and the nuts for Ray Tabby.
This is an absolutely amazing river card. This has really just hit everybody. I think with action in front of him, it's not going to be that tough for Tim to get away, but it'll be very interesting to see what Ray does. I'm sure he's going to raise. It's just a question of how much he raises with his nut straight.
And it's tough to imagine any situation in which Sorrell's going to be able to get away from his hand. He's got 2 of the 7s in the deck. Here it comes. Tabby makes it 57,300.
Yeah, I can't see Sorrell folding here.
Well, Timothy gets away from the bad end.
How much is it?
And Sorrell asks for a count.
Really not that large of a raise here, not even 3 times the bet.
I call.
Sorrell makes the call and gets a look at the nuts.
Wow. Nice hand. I had 2 of them, so it's hard for you to have that.
We'll move to one of the outer tables now. Igor Kurganov finds his short stack all in. He's got the best of it pre-flop, though, against Isaac Haxton's pocket 9s. Igor with 2 queens. And the flop, king, 10, 6. So far, so good for queens. Here comes a turn, another king, and all Igor's got to do is dodge a 9 to double through Isaac. Oh, but he can't do it.
I like it. It's like a shot to the gut when that happens.
That hurt me.
2 outer to bust you from the tournament. It's just after the rebuy period, so Igor is done.
Well, the good news is it looks like Igor's dressed for a night swim. Certainly not the way he scripted his St. Kitts vacation, is it? So we're down to just 21 players as our Alpha 8 St. Kitts event rolls on. Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free. The festive atmosphere of St. Kitts being enjoyed by Lynn Gill Martin and everyone who has taken the short flight from Miami down to this beautiful tropical island. One of the amateurs is in action right now. That's Greg Whaley. Min raising to 4,000 with the blinds at 1 and 2,000 and the antes at 300. Folded over to Jonathan Duhamel in the big blind, who will defend for another 2K with Queen 10 suited. And to the flop, heads up they go. That flop is 2 7s and a queen.
Great flop for Greg, obviously flopping 3 of a kind, especially when John, his opponent, flops top pair.
Duhamel checking over to Whaley. Oh, and he's going to slow play it.
Not a fan of that play. I think most pros would bet their 3 7s just hoping to build the pot.
And on the turn, the deuce changes nothing.
It puts a flush draw out there, but besides that, John should feel comfortable with his pair of queens.
Raise.
And John bet 4,500 and Whaley makes it 10,000.
A little bit of an odd raise here, very small raise.
Yeah, from 4,500 to 10,000, not enough to get Duhamel out of the way. And the river's a jack of hearts. 31,000 in the middle and Duhamel checks. Now, how much should Whaley be betting here?
20,000.
He settles on 20. Is that a good figure?
I think it's a pretty reasonable figure, about 2/3 of the pot. I mean, for me, this bet just looks really strong. After making a very small raise on the turn, putting a healthy-sized bet of 20,000 on the river, it seems like the vast majority of Greg's hands here will be stronger than John's. If I'm John, I'm really not liking the spot, and most of the time I'm going to fold Queen 10.
Well, Duhamel does make the call, and
7.
What do you suppose he's thinking Whaley might have had that Queen 10 was good against?
Well, there's just a level of unpredictability because John's never played with this player and he's not a professional player, and because of that, you know, there's a chance he could be bluffing in a spot that most pros wouldn't be.
Yeah, for me, a busted spade draw semi-bluff on the turn was about the only thing that would come to mind in that particular spot as we look at the feature table chip counts. Jason Kuhn, still the big stack, followed by Mike Mcdonald and Ray Tabby. Short stacks belong to Timothy Adams and Sorel Mitzi. Sorel pretty much in an all-in or fold situation here.
Definitely with under 8 big blinds.
It hasn't been too bad.
Ace-10 offsuit for Greg now. See if he'll put some of those newfound chips to work, but he just lays it down.
Pretty conservative fold under the gun 7-handed, but sometimes just after you win a pot, you want to kind of take a breather and not get involved the next hand right after.
King, queen suited. Good for all of Sorel's chips as he ships it.
Definitely a strong enough hand here for the 7.5 big blinds that Sorel has left.
15-7 plus 2 balls.
Let's see what else I got. If you can't match it, you can't call.
That's 14,800 and apparently 3 bottle caps to call. Duhamel makes the call and Sorel entertains himself.
Let's do a little Jenga.
Yeah, John with ace-9 offsuit, it's a kind of an in-between spot. There are 3 players after him, but I think with ace-9, it's probably good enough against Sorel's range.
He does have 3 players left to act behind him, including Ray Tabby, who's looked at ace-queen offsuit and decided to just call as well.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of just calling with ace-queen. I think it would be better for him to put an additional raise, try to isolate the all-in player, and knock John out of the hand.
I'll just get up anyway.
And the flop is deuce 3 kings. Sorel out flopping both of his opponents.
Pretty decent.
Yeah.
I'm against 2 people.
Yeah.
Sorel giving his buddies at the outer tables some play-by-play updates.
Yeah.
Generally, in this type of situation, the players who are not all-in will play relatively conservatively, trying to knock the all-in player out.
Both Duhamel and Tabby check. Turn card is a 6.
Yeah.
Jonathan checks again. Ray checks behind him. And the river's a 3. Jonathan checks a 3rd time. And Ray checks as well, just as you predicted, Olivier.
Jack high. Good game, guys.
Boom! Ship it!
I'm allowed to slow roll there, right? I'm allowed to slow roll there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't unethical
That's
or
not a
shady.
slow roll.
I'm allowed to do that.
You're definitely allowed to.
Bit of a spicy showdown maneuver there by Sorel. He better than triples up and gives himself a little bit of breathing room here.
Yeah, that feels great when you're down to under 8 big blinds and you get called in 2 spots, one of them dominating you, and you still end up winning more than tripling your stack. It's got to give you some renewed energy.
Speaking of renewed energy, that's what Bill Perkins is looking for.
Still another fair fight. Oh, wow.
Hoping to win his flip with ace-king
We need a little Perky lives. Come on.
against finance entrepreneur Paul Newey's 2 queens, but the flop, queen 7-3, a disaster for Bill. And even though he hits a king, he's drawing dead on the turn.
All right. See you guys.
Bill Perkins has been eliminated.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
This event?
Yeah, thank you very much. Can we get a clap for Bill Perkins, ladies and gentlemen?
And we saw Bill play a little bit loose with his first bullet, but at the same time, he lost a number of all-ins. He could have won any one of those, so a little bit of bad luck from Bill Perkins there.
And the dreaded red wash up on the top left of your screen, coming over Bill Perkins' thumbnail. But before he says goodbye, there's an obligatory stop at the pool with Lynn Gilmartin.
Bill, we
Yes,
meet again.
We meet again, unfortunately.
Oh, the nasty flips.
The nasty flips. You know, Ace King just couldn't get there. At Ace King on a flip and got cut in half, and then another Ace King, and I'm out. I'm sitting here talking to you folks.
I know.
Elevator going down, not up.
It must be rough how fast poker can really turn around. you know?
Yeah, it happens. You know, you have to win those to win a tournament. Everybody goes through it, and unfortunately, in my home country, I just couldn't pull it off.
Well, something tells me the players would let Bill buy in for another $200,000 at this point, but rules are rules.
That's right, registration has ended and we are down to 20 players with Bill Perkins bust.
$100,000 buy-ins in Paradise can only mean one thing. The WPT Alpha 8 has come to town. Our prize pool, over $2.7 million. First place is going to earn over $1 million. And while we were away from Christoph Harbor here in St. Kitts, there were some fireworks, which included Timothy Adams finding himself all in against the man they call Timex, Mike Mcdonald, and escaping elimination.
Fade. Fade him.
There is a new short
Still
stack.
alive.
Once again, there's a new short stack.
And Jonathan Duhamel did the same with his Pocket Kings against amateur businessman Ray Tabby. Back at the feature table now, where 7 players are engaged in high-stakes battle. The shortest stack among them belongs currently to Sorel Mitzi, and the blinds have just gone up to 12 and 2,400 with a 400 ante, which spells even more bad news for him.
Team Germany just smashes.
Sorel whipping out the sunglasses. He looks at ace-6 offsuit.
Sorel in the cutoff with 10 big blinds and an ace.
And he's going to stick it all in there. Can't just raise with a stack like that.
No, I think you could be a little bit patient with ace-6 off. I don't think you're forced to move in here. But at the same time, it is an ace and you have only 10 big blinds, so I think you can kind of flip a coin to decide what to do.
King-queen suited for Ray Tabby. This is a no-brainer, right?
I think you should call here. There's only one guy after you, Jason in the big blind.
Ray makes the call with king-queen suited.
You have the best hand, sir, I think.
Yeah.
Jason folds, and players turn their hands up.
Yes, that's the only hand I'm ahead of, I think.
And Sorel's happy to have an ace.
It's been fun, boys.
Oh, you're trying to do the reverse hex thing?
Any king or a queen dead?
As you see from the percentages, despite having king high pre-flop, Ray was actually the favorite.
Is it good or bad? No good. You liar. Now if it comes, I'm going to be tilted at you.
That all changes after this flop of 9-7-4, however. Sorel a better than 2-1 favorite at this point.
Paired
6
up.
doesn't really change anything. All Sorel needs to do is dodge a king or a queen on the end.
Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me, Lunkin. You're my Lunkin.
And he does.
Those are the words right there.
Yep. There you go.
That might be the greatest hand of poker.
Okay, Scott's allowed to be a Lunkin. He is allowed to be a... You're allowed to be a Lunkin. You were my Lunkin in that moment.
It's just like, bye-bye.
Olivia, do you have any idea what a lunkin is?
I honestly don't. I've never heard that before.
That makes 2 of us.
I'm not sure if I want to be a Lunkin.
It doesn't seem like a good thing, does it?
Well, I think it was good luck for Sorel. He did manage to double up, so.
You're my lunkin, Olivia.
I don't want to be your Lunkin.
Duhamel now with queen 10 suited.
55.
And he raises it up. 5,600. Pocket 9s for Tabby. Raymond's been pretty active. Thinking re-raise? Indeed, 15,500. And Jason Kuhn's got ace-king.
Jason likes to play ace-king aggressively. We've seen him before throw in a 4-bet. Looks like that's what he's going to do again.
And 37,500 is the amount.
Very aggressive play here from Jason against an amateur 3-bet.
And that's the way he's played this table so far, though.
Yeah, I mean, ace-king is a very strong hand, so, I mean, it's not like he's really bluffing here.
And he's got the chips to do this with.
I think if Ray were to make an additional raise here, it'd just be interesting to see how Jason responded.
Hold it around to Duhamel. Well, Duhamel can't continue. He lays it down, and now it is up to Ray.
And this is part of the problem with re-raising before the flop when you're Ray with just 2 9s is that now, if you want to continue, which he does, you're in a much bigger bloated pot here pre-flop.
Yeah, 87,000 in the middle, and gin for Jason Kuhn. A little overkill, actually.
Yeah, just obviously a dream flop, flopping the full house here.
Tabby checks his 2 9s. And why not? Kuhn does the same. And that's exactly the kind of card you hope your opponent hits if you're Jason Kuhn. Tabby now has 9s full against kings full.
Yeah, and you know, Tabby, from his point of view, he thinks he's just hit gin. You know, he's made a full house here on the turn. He's making a large bet, almost 50,000 chips, hoping to get called from Jason. Little does he know, Jason's sitting on a bigger full house, really just waiting, trapping his opponent here.
There is a third club out there.
Yeah, both players with full houses are not concerned with clubs. They're just hoping that in some way the clubs are playing into their opponent's hands.
Ray does have one out. Queen of clubs is not it. Over 182,000 in the middle, and Ray moves all in. Jason with the snap call.
Just like that, Ray Tabby's going to be eliminated in a pretty brutal cooler here for Ray.
It's like a massive gut punch.
An absolutely massive pot for Jason, almost 350,000 chips in that pot.
And he is going to be the overwhelming chip leader.
That's difficult flop.
Ray Tabby, on the other hand, is headed off to enjoy a little bit of this tropical breeze. Down to just 19 players now.
How did you like it when he made it 42 on the turn and then he went all in on the river?
I enjoyed it.
Feel?
I liked it a lot. I like that queen even.
How do you like just the turn lead right into you?
For bomb. For bomb. How do I mind the fourth club on the river too? I don't mind it, especially the queen of clubs.
Must be nice.
The St. Kitts Mary Resort is a full-service resort. We're right on the beach. We have a casino, a spa, everything you want right here at the resort.
Yes, you've got the works. I'm in paradise.
And thanks to the Royal Beach Casino at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort, our A8 players were welcomed in true island style.
Oh, look at this! Something's going on here.
This feels like what Alpha 8's about. Nice, beautiful location, warm weather, and it should be a lot of fun.
Couldn't agree more with Jeff Gross. Let's recap where we're at right now. Here at Christoph Harbor, we have 3 tables in action. Up top, you see our feature table, coupled with 2 outer tables, 19 players spread out, and the prize pool, over $2.7 million. First place good for over $1 million. Here at the feature table, we have 6 players seated. Blinds are at 12 and 2,400 with a 400 ante. Button is on Jonathan Duhamel. Action has been folded around to Sorel Mitzi, who is the short stack. And with ace-queen offsuit, he makes it 5,000 to go.
Sorel starting the hand with just about 22 big blinds. Normally, players in this position will play a little bit tighter than normally, expecting that their tournament life will be at risk more often than if they, say, have 30 or 40 big blinds.
How much do you have to hand?
McDonald asking for a count.
I think I started with about 60. Did you fold now? 30.
Yeah. He's got ace-7 offsuit.
Yeah.
And is going to make the call from the big blind.
Yeah, of course.
And the flop is 10-8-4, 2 hearts.
Not much of anything for either player here.
McDonald checks it over to Sorel. And he's not going to continuation bet. He just checks behind, function of his short stack.
And the board texture is going to hit a lot of Mike's big blind defending range.
Turn, produces the 5 of hearts.
Adds equity to both players. Mike turns a gut shot straight draw, and Sorel turns the queen high flush draw with his queen of hearts.
But Mike is going to bet, perhaps sensing weakness, trying to take advantage of a potentially conservative attitude from Sorel with his stack.
Yeah, Sorel gave up the initiative on the flop, and Mike turned equity and has seized it himself on the turn. I like this lead here from Mike.
Well, Sorel called the 8,000 on the turn, and that's a big call given how much he has left in his stack, and both players brick on the river.
WPT twice, I puke on it.
Sorel has the best hand here, but it's McDonald firing again, this time 16,000.
I think Mike correctly identifies that his ace high is not good enough to win. The 9 of spades is actually a card that's more likely to help Mike than it is to help Sorel. As we see, Sorel does fold here. I like this bluff on the river from Mike. He picked up equity on the turn, didn't ultimately hit his hand, but had enough aggression and enough wherewithal to understand the card was good for him and not for his opponent, so he ends up winning the pot with a nice bluff on the river.
Well, Mike McDonald's certainly not the type of player who's gotten this far in his career by making wrong moves. We know that much. I understand you've played with him quite a bit.
Yeah, Mike is one of the top players on the circuit, and you could see there being able to win the hand without having the best of it.
That said, he's second in chips, and there is a big gap between him and the chip leader at the table, Jason Kuhn, who's pushing the 400K barrier. And Sorrell nursing an even shorter stack at this point, lays down his hand. Jonathan Duhamel unlikely to do the same with pocket queens.
You tend to see players play tighter pre-flop in these types of situations, meaning that when there are players with between 10 and 20 big blinds, other players will open a little bit less wide, expecting to get some all-ins.
Duhamel's made it 5,500 to go.
No,
well, those are hundreds.
It was the sickest spot.
McDonald is called with ace-9 of hearts.
And I was like 2 of 4 and pressed all up.
I call.
Greg Whaley is called with king-10 offsuit, and they'll take the flop three-way. Burn down, 3 off the top of the deck, and the flop. 10, tray 6, all hearts. McDonald with the nuts.
Yeah, this is a good flop for all players. John has an overpair, Greg Whaley has a top pair, and obviously Mike McDonald flopping the nut flush has an absolute stranglehold on the hand.
Greg checks to Jonathan, and Jonathan understandably fires 12,500 into the pot. Action is on Mike now.
I'm all in.
1 second.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait a minute.
I didn't see his cards.
Greg Whaley just moved all in when it wasn't his turn.
Oh, man, what are you thinking if you're Mike McDonald?
This is unbelievable. I mean, you see sometimes players, acting out of turn, making these mistakes, but rarely do you see it when the player in front of them are sitting on the nuts.
Do I need to, do I have to stop? What do I have to do?
The tournament director is coming over to make a ruling.
Yeah, so if you don't change, if you call or fold, the action's going to stay. If you decide to raise, then you can reconsider.
If he calls,
I'm sorry, I didn't see
The action
that
doesn't
card.
change. So if he calls or folds, it's all in. If he decides to raise that bet, then he can reconsider.
So the tournament director, Brian Gruesome, has made a ruling. His ruling is that if Mike either calls or folds, then Greg's all-in stands. But if Mike decides to raise, then Greg has an opportunity to reconsider. Now, from Mike's point of view, when he's sitting on the nuts, he really only has one option, and that is to call, ensuring that Greg will be all in.
I don't do this very often.
What about being extra deceptive, putting in the raise to make it seem like maybe you don't want your man to move all in behind you? Because certainly if you just call like Mike is doing here, Jonathan Duhamel is going to have alarm bells going off in his head.
If I'm Jonathan Duhamel, I'm not even thinking about the situation. I'm instantly folding my hand.
You're all in.
When Mike calls, he knows that he has to call 95,000 more all in from Greg, so Mike's only going to call here with an absolutely monster hand. And Greg is going to be drawing incredibly thin for his tournament life.
That was a bad mistake, I think. Yeah.
That was a bad mistake by
I
Greg.
didn't even know you were there.
Truth be told, if Mike wasn't in the hand, Greg probably would have been called by John and would still be in bad shape, but it's tough to be in worse shape than up against the nut flush here.
Mike's been mean to me all day. Let's turn at 6.
I've been running so good.
Well, we'll see whether or not Greg Whaley will be drawing live as of the turn.
The only way he can win is to hit running cards for a full house. He needs a 10, 3, 6, or king to have a chance.
Oh, there's a 6.
Fighting chance for Greg. He needs a 10 or a 6.
And the 8 won't cut it.
Good game. Good game. Hey, really good playing with you. That's funny.
Good game, man. It was a pleasure.
And that draws the curtain on Greg Whaley's first ever Alpha 8 appearance. And McDonald narrows the gap between himself and Jason Kuhn. Want even more high-stakes poker action? Then log on to clubwpt.com/alpha8. Watch as one of our multi-millionaire amateurs takes on 2 pros at once in a hand you can only see on the A8 Clip of the Week. clubwpt.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
This is the Mango Orchard Spa.
I'm in heaven.
Yep.
In case I wasn't already.
Yeah?
You know what? It's been a long week, so I might just take a break.
Oh, good idea.
Really, Lynn? Take a break?
She gets to do all the fun activities while we're stuck up here in the skybox.
I'm not okay with this. And the other thing that I'm sure some folks are not okay with, it's the arrival of Scott Seaver at the feature table. That certainly makes the game a little bit tougher for the 6 who are seated there.
Scott Seaver is our second place finisher in London, and Really one of the toughest live tournament players around. Not a sight that any of the players want to see. Scott, having both a lot of online and live success, finds himself comfortable in almost any spot at a poker table.
I know you mentioned that you thought he was one of the top 3 players all around in these live tournaments.
Yeah, he's as tough as it gets.
He'll have the button. Blinds have gone up to 1,500 and 3,000 with an ante of 500. Timothy Adams with Jack 9. Lays it down. Sorel does the same, and now over to Jonathan Duhamel with Queen Jack suited. He's going to move all in.
Got out of my car and got in hers just to talk. And
Seaver and Kuhn fold. Back over to Timex with ace-10 off.
In the big blind with about 17 big blinds in Duhamel's stack, Mike decides to call with ace-10. Pretty reasonable call.
He does have the best hand heading to the flop. Duhamel's not a huge dog, but a dog nonetheless. His tournament life is on the line, and the flop is not a great one for Queen Jack of diamonds. He's gonna need some help.
Couple back doors for John.
On the turn pairs the board, and the door is quickly closing. Can John hit a queen or a jack to stay alive? He cannot.
Yep.
And that signals the departure of 2010 World Series of Poker main event champion Jonathan Duhamel. Something tells me with the blinds where they are, we're going to see some more casualties as our field is narrowed down to just 17 players.
Yeah. Sit open.
I'd rather be Mike McDonald for a day than a bird for a day. That's for sure.
Sorel the philosopher, apparently. Still 3 tables in action. The next player that we lose, we're going to consolidate down to 2 tables of 8 players, Olivier. Is there any reason to think Jason Kuhn and Mike McDonald's massive chip counts at this point don't place them firmly as the favorites to win this thing?
No, I definitely think they're the favorites, but as you said, when one more player busts, they're going to consolidate to 2 tables and we'll get a new table draw, so we'll have to see who's sitting where with what stacks, because that will influence a lot of the play going forward.
Timothy Adams with pocket jacks has raised it up in the cutoff to 6,500, and for some reason, Sorel Mitzi's 10 deuce offsuit has not yet hit the muck.
Well, Timothy's starting the hand with about 23 big blinds, opening in late position. There are going to be a number of hands that he is willing to open with, but not willing to commit his stack. So I think Sorel picks up on that and puts a small enough 3-bet that he can get away from his hand. I like the choice of a junk hand. I'm not sure I would have picked 10-2 offsuit, but I think he's picking more the situation than the hand itself.
And Jason Kuhn appears keenly aware of that as he puts in a 4th bet. 36,000 total now with his pocket 5s.
So when Jason puts this 4th bet in, I think he's willing to commit to Tim. I'm not sure about Sorel's stack.
And Tim has moved all in. Sorel out of the way and will be heads up going to the flop. Kuhn not too pleased with his situation right now, but Timothy Adams' tournament life is at risk here. On the flop, 9, 6, 7.
It's fun for everybody.
Gut shot straight draw for Jason Kuhn.
On the turn, puts a 10 on board. That straight draw is no longer good. All Timothy has to do is dodge a 5, and he does. Pocket jacks hold up, and Adams will better than double up.
Tightest guy at the table doubles up. Night hand.
Friendly double.
Friendly doubles.
My parents are always like, you play really conservative. Every time all my friends think I'm just like the nittiest player ever. It's like, well, yeah, when you have under 20 big blinds every time.
Timothy Adams is known as one of the more conservative players on the circuit, but he's very tough, very solid, and more than capable of exploiting that image.
Speaking of tough and solid, there's a look at Poker Hall of Famer Eric Seidel, who has just been eliminated by Fabian Quas's pocket aces. Seidel will head up to the room to apply some more SPF 95. Come on, Eric, it's time for an island tan. That draws the curtain on today's action. Bags are being distributed to the players. We're down to just 16 hopefuls.
All right, high card for me, please. Noon tomorrow on the bags.
This is what happens at the end of each night of a poker tournament. Players put all of their chips in a plastic bag, write their name, their chip amounts, and they come back the next day to a new table with new opponents.
And we've only got 2 of our original 6 amateurs left in the field, Michael Singh and Paul Newey.
Yeah, that means that the field has gotten ultra tough with the pros really dominating the early stages of the tournament. I look next time for the big stacks to really put pressure on the small stacks as we near the money. And in particular, we haven't seen too much of him thus far, but Isaac Haxton is actually our tournament chip leader with close to $500,000 in chips, and I expect him to be in a great position to vie for the title.
Let's not forget about Mike McDonald, second in chips. Kind of makes it like the Mike and Ike show, potentially. On behalf of Lynn Gilmartin and Olivier Bousquet, I'm Ali Najad saying join us next time for more action from Christoph Harbor here in St. Kitts.
The warm waters of the Caribbean are playing host to the hottest high rollers in the world. These poker sharks are ready to devour any fish that get in their way. This is WPT Alpha 8. Welcome to WPT Alpha 8 St. Kitts. This luscious island playground is hosting the latest in our series of super high roller tournaments. The game we play is Texas Hold'em. Our players are an elite group who travel the world in search of the highest stakes. This event has attracted some of the most affluent players of the game, and all of them have paid at least $100,000 for a chance to be the Alpha 8. Day 2 of our tropical tournament is about to heat up, so let's head over to A8's esteemed commentators, Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet. They join us from the clubwpt.com skybox.
Thanks, Lynn. Esteemed and at least for one of us, always impeccably dressed. He is Olivier Bousquet. I'm Ali Najad, and welcome to our continuing coverage of the Alpha 8 event from Christoph Harbor here in beautiful St. Kitts. Both Olivier and I had the privilege of a front row seat to all of Day 1's action, which included a couple of bust outs, not the least of which were Igor Kurganov, who walked the plank after being plundered, running into Isaac Haxton's rivered set of 9s, and World Series of Poker champion Jonathan Duhamel, whose exit came courtesy of Queen Jack suited, which didn't improve against Mike McDonald's Ace 10. All in all, an unlucky 7 players have busted so far, leaving us with just 16 remaining in the event. Although those players who have busted are probably not looking for the first flight out, since it is so pretty here.
Yeah, so we're down to 16 players, which is just 2 tables. And one of the scariest parts of Alpha 8 events, and one of my favorite parts, is that as tough as this competition is, this is actually what you would expect in these super high buy-in tournaments. At the outer table is our tournament chip leader, Isaac Haxton. I look for him to make a deep run into this tournament. But here at our feature table, Mike McDonald is our current chip leader, and I expect him to put a lot of pressure, especially on the shorter stacks as we near the money.
Isaac with over $450,000 in chips. He will certainly be a threat as he takes aim at that over $1 million first place prize, over $2.7 million in the prize pool. Getting a look at our feature table, we are 8-handed there. The blinds are 2 and 4,000. The ante is 500, and the button is on Paul Newey, one of the 2 remaining amateurs in the event. Antonio Esfandiari starts the day's action off by folding 10-7 suited, and Tom McDonald, our first look at him at the feature table.
9.
Takes a peek at pocket jacks and makes it 9,000 to go, 3 times the big blind.
Tom's a professional player from the UK. I have to say that I'm not too familiar with him. I haven't seen him too much at these tournaments. So I'm not sure if he's a big online player or not. But it'll be interesting to see how he plays, how he fares against this very tough competition.
Well, we'll get a chance to see just that as Jason Kuhn defends his big blind for an extra 5K with the Ace-8 offsuit. And we head to our first flop. 2 3s and a deuce.
Pretty safe flop for 2 jacks.
Antonio doesn't have a hand, but apparently he checked behind Jason.
14.
Looks like he has a slow, deliberative betting style.
Kuhn folds.
Doesn't seem like a stranger to the live tables. 14,000 after only raising to 9,000 pre-flop on a board of 2-3-3 is a rather large bet. I think most players would have bet something more like 7,000 or 8,000. So we'll have to keep watching Tom and see if his bet sizing is a little larger than some of the other players. Might be from a cash game background. A lot of cash game players tend to bet larger than tournament players.
Over to Jeff Gross with king-queen offsuit. He lays it down. A little conservative out of him.
I'm not sure why he folded that hand, honestly. It seemed good enough to raise with. Jeff a little bit on the tighter side. Maybe that was just an example of him playing it safer.
Folded around to Jason Kuhn. Jason Kuhn from Weston, West Virginia, just 28 years of age. And he's just going to limp in with ace-9 offsuit.
The small blind is always a tough position to play. You're heads up, but you're out of position against the big blind, so...
How much did you start with?
I don't know.
Can you count it down?
Well, Antonio, he makes it 15,500 total with 10-3 off.
Yeah, Antonio using a junk hand to try to put pressure on Jason. Antonio with starting the hand with 134,000. It's about 34 big blinds. I'm not a huge fan of this play just because I think when Jason calls the big blind from the small blind, a lot of times he's going to be willing to call this raise and see a flop. So Antonio's going to have to play a flop with this junk hand.
And sure enough, Jason has made the call for an extra 11,500. And the flop is 4-5 deuce with a couple of spades. And Jason checks it to Antonio. And with 35,000 in the middle, he's moving all in 118,000.
Jason only has ace high, but he's looking a little suspiciously at Antonio. I don't think he's really thinking about calling, though. He suspects he might have the best hand. I think if Jason had even a 4, he would probably call this, but...
Kuhn does lay it down, but is there ever a situation where Antonio could just turn his hand face up and for that price, Kuhn won't make the call?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be close. You'll have to do the math, see what his equity is, and figure out if it's worth risking those chips at this point in the tournament. But, you know, ultimately, Antonio taking a big risk there and getting away a little bit lucky that Jason didn't have enough to call.
Action on Tobias Rankenmeyer, the 26-year-old German who has over $7.5 million in live tournament earnings, to which he's not going to be adding in this hand.
I actually helped add to those tournament earnings when I finished second to Tobias in the high roller in Monte Carlo a few years ago.
Ouch. Over to Paul Newey, and he's going to put it all in, Olivier, 64,500.
Not too much of a decision there from Paul. All in.
And over the top of him comes Jason Kuhn with ace-queen offsuit, all in himself.
I think with ace-queen and Paul Newey's stack, Jason can't just call with the amount of chips that he has. He has to just move in himself and hope that no one behind him wakes up with a monster.
Jeff Gross looks at one ace, and that's not the card he had in mind.
This is the best spot.
I know, right?
Send that hand into the muck.
I had an ace for the first one.
So it'll be heads up between Paul Newey's pocket nines. He's all in and at risk and gets outflopped. Queen in the window, queen deuce 8 on the flop. And Newey is now 9 fishing. Ace on the turn really doesn't change much for Paul. He's got 2 outs once, and the 3 isn't one of them. And that leaves just one amateur remaining in the field as Paul Newey finishes in 16th place, leaving 15 players behind.
The ace, the first card, Jason. I'm glad I didn't have ace king.
Oh, yeah?
I had ace deuce.
You squeezed an ace first card?
Yeah.
Good squeeze.
Glad I didn't have ace king, that's all I'm good.
Come on. Thank God you didn't have ace king.
I know. Aces I would have taken. But I like Jason a lot too, so it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough. But then you just
But
call.
sometimes you gotta win, yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of a person in this tournament I don't like.
That's rare too, you know?
Yeah.
It's actually not that rare at these very high stakes. There's a relatively small community of players. A lot of them get along with each other.
And a lot of them talk strategy with one another too, don't they?
Yeah, the poker world is kind of divided into these kind of small social groups. It's very cliquish, actually. 5 or 6 of them become close friends, travel together, talk strategy together, and it really improves their games. It's one of the ways that the poker world in general has gotten so tough, people have gotten so good, is from talking strategy with their friends.
Tom McDonald now with king jack offsuit. He's raising it to 9,000. Tom says one of his goals is to make enough money that he can move into a house with a thatched roof, close to a small stream with salmon where he can sit for many hours and enjoy the peaceful view. Well, we've given him the view. I'm not sure if there's any salmon out there. There may even be some thatch around. Folded over to Tobias Rankenmeyer, who looks at ace-5 suited. And he's going to move all in from the small blind. Total of 76,000. Mike McDonald moved all in with his pocket queens.
Tobias, it was nice knowing you, brother.
No, I'm in good shape.
The reason Toby says that is because ace-5 suited is never a huge dog to any hand besides pocket aces.
Not out yet.
No way. Over 30%.
Even against pocket queens, he's almost a third of the chance to win.
Good shape.
Mike's like, damn it.
Over 30.
And the flop is king 4-6.
I mean, it's always a deuce or a 3 or 7. Always.
Tobias's chances grow thinner after the turn, which is the 10 of clubs. Tobias needs an ace. Instead, it's a 7.
One of the tougher players in the field. Toby is a member of the very successful German crew.
And Tobias leaves behind 14 combatants, but not before a round of handshakes and a sigh of relief from the remaining field. We'll return to St. Kitts with more action after this.
Looking for high roller excitement without the high roller risk? Go to clubwpt.com now and play in our Alpha 8 high roller play chip tournaments and ring games for a chance to be crowned champion.
This is the most stunning setting I've ever seen for a poker tournament.
Yes, I absolutely. Forget poker tournament. It's one of the most stunning settings you've seen in the world. Crystal Harbor has probably the best beach in the Caribbean. The pavilion that they built is not obtrusive. It integrates well with the scenery. It's very beautiful, open air. You know, atmosphere is very important. It makes for a great mood, a great time, and it makes everyone happy, even if you're busted on the rail rooting for your friends. You know, I'm happy.
I have to say, I totally agree with Bill. When my wife and I look at the schedule, we look at the environments that we'll be good in case I bust, making sure we still have a good time. So I think St. Kitts is really a great venue.
Steve Silverman was moved to the feature table during the break, but let's head to the outer table where we find the last remaining amateur in the field, Michael Singh, with pocket 9s, moving all in on a board of 8-8 deuce with a couple of diamonds against Timothy Adams, who has 2 overcards and a flush draw.
Yeah, I think Tim is trying to figure out if there's a chance that Michael has a better flush draw. But otherwise, I think he's getting pretty close to good enough odds to call with his 10-9 of diamonds here.
And Tim decides to call, gets a look at pocket 9s, and he's drawing to a diamond or a 10 to send Michael Singh packing. Here comes the turn card. It is a diamond, but it's not over yet. Tim in the lead, Singh fishing for an 8 or a 9, and instead it's a 3. And our very last amateur in the event is shaking hands and saying goodbye, Olivier.
This tournament just gets tougher and tougher as we've lost our final amateur down to just 13 pros all vying for this title.
A real bloodbath on our hands. Let's send it over to Lynn Gilmart.
How was your experience here?
It was great, spectacular. I love this place anyway, but playing poker here is amazing.
Now you've got a beautiful ocean to sit by.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Soak it up.
Spectacular.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Getting a look at the leaderboard at the feature table, Mike McDonald with almost 450,000 has the lead. A distant second is Jason Kuhn with 228. And the short stack, just shy of the original 100K each player was given, belongs to Steven Silverman with 97.5. Jeff Gross will start this hand off with Jack-6 offsuit. Return to sender. Same goes for Steven Silverman and Mike McDonald as well. Queen-Jack offsuit, meanwhile, for Jason Kuhn, who makes it 9,000 to go. And Antonio's interest seems peaked with 4-5 suited.
Always a painful process to get Antonio to fold his button.
But he folds the button. Tom McDonald folds the small, and now to Philip Gruesome's ace-queen off. He is, of course, our London Alpha 8 event champion. Understands a thing or two about playing in these super high roller buy-ins, and that's playing a part in him re-raising to 25,500.
This is a difficult spot for Jason. Philip is known for aggressively 3-betting late position openers, so Jason's not likely to give Philip as much credit as he would some of the other players.
Also doesn't seem likely to put in one of those hero 4th bets as we see him settle on a call, and he's dominated heading to this flop, which is a bad one if you're Jason Kuhn. Queen, 4-3, rainbow.
Yeah, this is kind of a nightmare spot for Jason. It's going to be tough for him to get away if an ace or king doesn't peel off on the turn.
And Philip's bet of 20,000 is quickly called. To the turn we go, which is an ace. And Gruesome doesn't love this card, does he?
Well, obviously this makes Gruesome a big hand. If there's any reason he didn't like it, it's because he's afraid he'll lose his customer, Jason Kuhn, here on the turn.
Gruesome bets 32,000.
I think Jason can plausibly call one more bet, but I wouldn't want to see him call a river bet here. Jason will actually have some aces in his range calling on Queen 4-3, so calling the river here, if he doesn't improve, I think is a little bit too weak.
The river is a 7, and there's over 160,000 in the middle here. Now, what's Philip putting Jason on?
All in.
Probably some weak ace or a queen, but I think Philip, his only move here really is to move in like he's done. And it's up to Jason now to decide whether he wants to call.
73.5.
I call.
Wow, Jason does decide to call. He's not going to be happy when he sees Philip's hand.
Now, Kuhn just didn't believe what Philip was selling the entire time.
This is part of what separates Philip from some of the other pros. He's a little bit more unpredictable. His ranges are seen as being a little bit wider than the other pros, and for that reason, he gets paid off a little bit more in these big spots than some of the other players would.
What about Germans always have it when he goes in?
And you see Philip climbing up the leaderboard there into second in chips with over 300,000. And Jason Kuhn slides all the way down into seventh in chips here at the feature table with less than 80K in front of him and the blinds at 2,000 and 4,000. Meanwhile, Mike Mcdonald, the pro from Waterloo, Ontario, just 24 years of age with pocket tens.
Nice hand here for the table chip leader.
Makes it 11,500 to go. And it's pocket kings for Tom McDonald. We could see sparks here. McDonald makes it 28,500.
Monster for Tom.
And look at this, Jeff Gross with pocket jacks.
Jeff Gross sitting on just under 32 big blinds.
Calling's not an option.
I think Jeff's the type of player he's tight enough that I don't think he's going to get much action here from a worse hand.
He's going to 4-bet to 62,000. Look at that, Mike McDonald with the quick fold of the pocket tens.
All in.
Quick all in on the heels of that fold by Tom McDonald. And Jeff's not going to like that as he shows his pocket jacks.
Big fold, Mike.
J for Jeff.
Pretty big cooler here for Jeff Gross.
Yeah, he's a 4-1 dog, and the flop is 8-9 queen.
It's got possibilities.
6 of them.
Take a 10 of spades. Just make it interesting.
10 of spades.
Turn is a 7.
Well, I mean, I don't want to just end it.
And the river is an ace.
You cover.
No, I don't know.
I think you did. You're sure.
Well, Jeff almost checked out, but it looks like he's actually got a handful of chips left.
Yeah, Jason's right. Jeff did start the hand with 10,000 chips more than Tom's.
Guess I need the ace-king there.
Not even the great Jeff Gross can get away from that one.
No, sorry.
Silverman good, but not Jeff Gross.
Cherry of that cooler there, moving up in the chip stacks, over 300,000 in chips.
Mike McDonald, who's got to be feeling good about that lay down with the pocket tens, lays this hand down, as does Jason Kuhn.
It's a fun game. I guess once I 4-bet, I was...
Yeah, I think he's committed once you 4-bets. It's difficult in poker a lot of times when you end up getting cooler or losing a hand. You try to second guess yourself, figure out a better way to play it, but a lot of these situations are just unavoidable. I don't think there's much Jeff could have done better. Once he 4-bets, he's really just committed there.
He's going to stick his remaining 9,500 in the middle with a fairly premium holding, ace-queen suited.
This is a good spot for Jeff. The very next hand to come up with a big hand with ace-queen suited. He's going to have an opportunity to at least double or triple up here.
And there's going to be a side pot here between the two players who still have chips. Jeff Gross, of course, not one of them. It'll be Philip Gruesome against Steven Silverman. Flop is 9-8-5 with a couple of spades. Silverman checks. Top pair for Gruesome.
And generally, players in these situations, when there's a third player who's all in, will play relatively conservatively in the side pots. Philip, flopping top pair, does have relatively vulnerable hand, so he's betting really to protect the hand and see if Steve wants to continue.
And Steve, of course, did not, so he folded.
There you go.
And the turn is a queen, giving Jeff Gross the best hand. River's an ace, Bit of overkill.
Jeff moves up from
back in it
10,000 to almost 50,000 in chips. That's quite a move for the short stack, Jeff Gross, and he still has a chance here in the tournament.
Well, they say a chip and a chair. I know it's been overused, but Jeff Gross taking the first steps down the road to recovery. Meanwhile, at the outer table, we find Max Altergott with ace-jack offsuit up against Scott Seaver's ace-deuce. The board reads ace-7-4 with a couple of clubs, and Scott's all-in is called by Max. Max shows the best hand. Seaver needs some help. The turn is a 5 of clubs, which won't cut it. And the river is a 3, and Seaver makes the wheel, sending Max Altergott home. Ouch!
That's a pretty rough way for Max to lose. Runner straight for Scott.
Down to just 12 players and 1 tank top when we return. Welcome back to the beautiful beaches of St. Kitts, where Max Altergott is standing by with Lynn Gilmartin.
Max, you busted out. It's got to be tough on the mind, but it certainly didn't affect your body.
No.
You got your shirt off, you're relaxed, you're in paradise. You still have to be happy, right?
Yeah, right. It's good. Like the first 5 minutes, I was a little bit disappointed. In the first moment, it's not about like the money that you're losing, but like the chance to still play with it, because I love playing poker.
Yeah.
And if you play, it makes so much fun. You know, to bust out makes like basically says, okay, now you can enjoy the ocean and everything else, but you cannot enjoy like bluffing the people, you know, making right cards. So.
Tell us about the players. You're sitting here on the secondary table with Scott Seaver, Isaac Caxton. How are they all playing today?
Great. Everybody's great here at the table. Like Timothy was playing great. Everybody that you can see here on the table, if you see the guys like behind me, everybody's a world-class player.
All right, well, thank you so much for chatting to us, and hopefully we'll see you at the next stop.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Let's get back to the feature table.
Yeah, a little bit. 2 more. 2 more, we call it even. All right. I give you a chance.
Jason Kuhn with pocket 10s. And he's going to make it 10,000. That's a min raise. Pocket 4s for Antonio.
Jason with only about 75,000 to start the hand. A little bit suspicious to min raise about 15 big blinds.
And Antonio just lays down the 4s?
Yeah, I think it's a function of Jason's stack and Antonio not really having any good options there. He doesn't want to re-raise with 2 4s into potentially a very strong hand or the number of players after him.
Yeah, Jason's move pre-flop almost seems like it's inviting someone to put them all in, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. With just 15 bigs, I think a lot of players would just move in with most of their hands.
Meanwhile, Jeff Gross, with ace-10 suited, is going to stick it all out there. 70,500 total, and in a world of trouble.
Yeah, another little bit of a cooler there for Jeff from the big blinds from the big blind with ace-10 of clubs. I think he's got to commit his 14 bigs.
Jason's good enough to raise the ace-8 there. Min raise.
Here comes the flop.
It's a pretty dry flop.
It is queen 7-5. Not a good one for Jeff.
It's the lead.
He's rooting for an ace. Instead, it's a deuce on the turn. And the river card is not an ace, and that means Jason Kuhn is forced to eliminate his buddy Jeff Gross by the thinnest of margins. They'll count it down nonetheless, but this time Jeff Gross is officially eliminated.
Jeff, 12th place. I'm sure you're understandably upset.
Yeah, it's never fun to bust, but at least we're in a beautiful location, and I think I played well and had fun, great venue, and hoping to go to the next Alpha 8, I believe, in Johannesburg.
Yes, that's going to be amazing.
Right.
Now tell us a little bit about your table. You have our London champ, Philip Gruesome, on your right.
Oh yeah, and then Silverman was the other champ on my, he's on my
Exactly.
left.
Oh
So I was
yeah,
on
you had a champion sandwich.
Sandwich.
You did too.
Yeah, it's, but there's really no easy spots here. Everyone's really just a really great player.
All right, well, thanks so much for talking to us. Enjoy the sun. Go get a tan, jump in the pool, do whatever you got to do to cool off.
For sure.
All right. Thanks.
Well, you never want to be the lunch meat in a champion sandwich, that's for sure, as we get a look at the counts for the 5 remaining players at our featured table. Tom Mcdonald at the top, Steven Silverman, still with roughly what he brought to this table, crept up to 103,000. When the action gets down to five-handed, Olivier, that changes the dynamic even more so.
Yeah, players will start opening up their ranges a little bit, playing a few more hands than they normally would.
Not hands like Queen 3 suited or Deuce 5 off, apparently, but Ace 8 suited for Tom Mcdonald certainly will fit the bill.
Pretty strong hand on the button here. Definitely good enough for a raise.
And Mcdonald min-raising to 10,000 himself.
A little bit of a tricky spot for Philip. I think in the big blind, this would be a much easier hand to play, but from the small blind, see a lot of pros fold this hand, maybe 3-bet every once in a while. Philip electing to call here.
Silverman out of the way in the big blind, and we're heads up to the flop. Seven, Jack, Queen, a good one for Philip.
Yeah, great flop for Philip. He flops a pair and a flush draw. Not much of anything for Tom.
Philip checks to him. Mcdonald doesn't take the bait and ends up turning the better hand with a pair of 8s as Philip checks a second time.
A lot of players would have led this turn with a pair and a flush draw. I actually
12.
like Phil's check. His hand is good enough to win, and he does have equity in case Tom does have a better hand.
Tom's betting 12,000, and Philip's just going to call.
Yeah, I like this play from both players. Tom checking back with no hand, turning a pair of 8s and betting it for value.
Oh, and look at the river. It's a 6, giving Philip the best hand now with 2 pair, and he checks it a third time. Tom won't bite, checks back, and Philip will take down the over 51,000 chip pot.
Cool. He's ready for fireworks on the flop.
Philip staying in rhythm there.
Okay, flop.
Even though he rivered 2 pair, trying to get Tom to bet again. Tom with just a pair of 8s, smartly checking back.
I'm a little surprised, honestly, that Philip didn't lead on the turn there and maybe just try to take the pot down without forcing himself to get there, as we see that he did.
Well, I don't think he thought he needed to get there since he had a pair of 7s. I think if Phil had, let's say, a straight draw with a flush draw, he probably would have bet. But since he actually had a pair, I think he was willing to take a card off and just check.
Wir haben 90 rausgeflogen, 90%. Und weißt du, wie wen wieder?
And Hasselhoff is back.
I know.
Better known as Altergot in the poker community.
Ja, selbe Situation.
Skadiko happy. Egal, ja, schick dir rüber.
I don't think Hasselhoff's that skinny.
You would say that.
I remember him having some hair on his chest, too.
That's so passé. No one does that anymore, Olivier.
Men do.
Meanwhile, it's been raised to 10,000 by the ace-deuce offsuit of Tom Mcdonald. And we have a call from Jason Kuhn's Jack-8 offsuit. The flop is ace-10-king. Jason checks to Tom.
12-5.
Who bets 12,500 with top pair. And Jason doesn't want to hunt for a queen to make the Broadway. Lays it down, and Mcdonald gets a little refund from his losses in the last pot to Philip Gruesome. There's a look at our Alpha 8 Florida champion, Steve Silverman. Former roommate of Andrew Chewy Lichtenberger. Started playing poker online, and since then he's racked up over $3 million in live tournament earnings. Folded over to Jason Kuhn, who makes it 12,000 to go with pocket kings, given that the blinds have now gone to 3 and 6,000. And he is up to 1K. So 12 is the new min raise. Ace-10 offsuit on the button for Antonio.
Antonio with about 21 big blinds. Probably going to move in here with ace-10.
All in.
And indeed he does.
Not going to be happy when Jason Kuhn calls with pocket kings.
Hey, Jason might lay this down. Snap call from Kuhn, of course.
Yeah, tough spot for Antonio. I don't mind his play. I think it's totally fine with ace-10 offsuit, but just happened to run into a big hand.
Seemed like the writing was on the wall, at least pre-flop.
I love you, but I'd love to tilt you right now. Not tilt me. Just, you know, one time.
Well, Antonio hits his ace, but
yeah,
Jason hits a set of kings. Not over quite yet. Well, as of the turn, it is. Antonio is drawing dead. And Jason Kuhn is going to eliminate Esfandiari and give him a nice parting gift. Who doesn't want a Jason Kuhn hug?
Right after he busts you.
Good luck, boys.
Esfandiari will bid adieu.
Antonio.
That hurt. I'm gonna go and maybe jump in the ocean naked and drown in my sorrows.
We've already seen you naked around these places, so it won't be anything new.
10 players remain when we return to Christoph Harbor.
I think Jason Kuhn's really tough player, friend of mine, someone I'm definitely, if he wasn't at the table against me, I'd definitely be rooting for.
I think he's a great player, super hard worker. He is a great thinker, and he's just a really disciplined guy.
Now, you're a perfectionist with your body, but you're a perfectionist with poker. Tell me about what you do.
I work really hard. I feel like we're all given gifts. Like, some of these guys I'm playing against are absolute cerebral maniacs. They're just raw brain power. So for me to make up that ground, I need to work hard, and that's an edge I can have. If you look at Eric Seidel, he's been in the game forever, and he plays like a 21-year-old kid. And all the new things that are going on, the new trends, he's on top of them.
Tell us about the other players in this event, any of your friends.
Back in the day, whenever I was in college, I would see Antonio.
I'm all in, and look at this. Antonio stands up and shows the 2 aces.
And I would want to play with him. I'd want to compete against him, but I was like, I got a $200 bankroll or whatever. And now I'm like, hey, Antonio, let's play this $100,000 tournament against each other. Yeah, it's really cool. It's cool to get to play with your heroes, you know?
Well, not only does he get to play with his heroes, but he actually just knocked one of them out in 11th place, busting Antonio.
That's right, leaving 10 players spread across 2 tables. And it actually looks like we've got a third unofficial table in action now. The busted players from this event have started an impromptu charity tournament to benefit victims of Typhoon Haiyan. 20% of the prize pool apparently is going to go to charity, and our very own Lynn Gill Martin has been staked by none other than Bill Perkins, because he's got a spare 20 grand laying around for her. We'll have to keep track of how Lynn's doing. Meanwhile, here at the feature table, we've got 5 players, 3 of whom are sitting on healthy stacks, 2 of whom are less than their original buy-in of $100,000.
I think like this is gonna end up like in a drinking, sit and go thing. When I hear Toby talking, oh, blind all in. Yeah, that was. We played a TV game where he was drinking a lot, going all in blind.
Both Sorel and Steve, with less than their original 100K buy-ins, laying down here over to the button of Jason Kuhn. He's got Jack 3 suited and is going to make it 13K to go.
Jason going to play the widest range from the button with only 2 players to play against and having position on both of them.
Tom mucks the small blind, and Philip will simply defend with ace-9 suited.
Strong hand for Philip, but I agree with the defend instead of the 3-bet. It's a hand that plays well post-flop, and you have to have some strong hands in your defending range.
And the flop, a good one for Jason Kuhn. Jack 6 deuce rainbow.
Yeah, Jason flopping top pair. Definitely likes this flop.
Philip checks to him, and Kuhn will bet 15,000. And Philip's going to take a card off.
I think it would have been reasonable to check or bet if Jason. He's taken the approach of trying to get value and see where Philip's at.
Board pairs on the turn. Both players check this time, and the river is a 3. Gruesome checks.
I think I win. I have a jack.
What did you say? I can't win?
No, I said I think I win.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I can't win. I can't win, but I win every time. Come on now.
Jason stacking the chips. Let's get up to speed on the action over at the charity table. Michael Singh, Bill Perkins, Lynn Gill Martin, and others. We don't have any chip counts or hole card cameras out there.
Looks like a pretty juicy spot, though.
Back at the feature table.
34. I'm all in.
Sorel Mitzi is moving all in with pocket 5s for his remaining 54,000. And Jason Kuhn's got 2 queens. And is going to just call.
Yeah, Jason's been on the good side of a couple short stack all-ins here with some big pairs, kings and now queens.
You have a pair? That is not good for me.
I like how Jason just called this raise from Sorel, giving both Tom and Philip a chance to wake up with the hand and think that they could push him off it instead of 3-betting.
2-sider.
Nice play there from Jason.
It didn't work out, obviously. Board is deuce 7-8 on the flop.
That's not fun.
Sorel's gonna have to hit running cards to make a straight or a 5.
Turn card is an ace, and Sorel is down to 2 outs once. The bell tolls. And the river does not help Sorel.
Good luck in the sit and go.
They'll shake hands, and apparently make his way over to the consolation tournament.
I know I would.
When you're in for 100K, what's another 20?
About 20%.
Well, it looks like Lynn Kilmartin's going to have to leave the event and go to work because Sorel Mitzi is waiting on her.
Sorel, you surprisingly left in very excited spirits. I've never seen someone so happy to get up off the table.
Anytime there's more action, I get excited. And, you know, like if I busted out of this tournament and then there was nothing to do, you know, then it would have been maybe a little bit more tilting, but there's another tournament happening. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much for talking to us.
Well, it looks like Sorel has found his way over to that event. A little 20K will get you right in. And it's worthy of note that it is benefiting victims of the big typhoon that hit the Philippines. We'll return to St. Kitts with more action after this. Find out the secret to surviving the ups and downs of playing poker professionally. Log on to clubwpt.com/alpha8 for Lynn's extended interview with American pro Jason Kuhn. It's only at clubwpt.com, the home of fun, exciting poker you can play for free. Welcome back to the WPT Alpha 8 event here in St. Kitts. Now, our main event's a $100,000 buy-in, but it's not the only poker being played any longer. The players who have busted out have agreed to assemble a $20,000 charity tournament. And it looks like Antonio Esfandiari just got the memo, as he's going to buy in. Apparently, it's clothing optional.
Well, we are on an island.
And we've got one 9-handed feature table.
So this feature table is actually the epitome of the trend in poker in the last few years. Fabian Quas is actually the oldest player at just 31 years of age. Basically have a group of young 20-year-olds flying around the world playing super high buy-in events, and this table is no exception.
There's a look at how it shakes out. Isaac Haxton, the huge chip leader, 601,000 in front of him. Mike McDonald in second, followed by Jason Kuhn. The three names on the podium at this point, but there is still a lot of play remaining.
Hey, Scott, familiar situation?
This is a familiar situation. I've never seen you not at it. I mean, guys, I'm just ready for Tim to bitch when he gets
15 to 30 bigs every
This
time.
is actually like the most you've had at the start.
If I come third, it'll be huge. It'll be huge.
Third,
for me if
it'll
I
be
come-
huge.
Slow and steady.
I'm just gonna get down to heads up and leave. I never win these things anyway. Well, blind out from heads up.
Guys, that's confidence. He thinks he's getting heads up. Look around.
Come on.
Come on. I mean, Philboard is a lock. So you think you're just the other lock? Maybe you're like 1 and 3, but like Philboard's lock.
Philboard is Philip Gruesome's online name. And he is a lock because Philboard has had an incredible amount of success deep in tournaments, has quite a number of wins, not too many second or third places.
Well, Philboard finds himself heads up here with 8-5 offsuit against ace-5 for Tom McDonald.
Not a fan of this defend by Philip.
Great flop, great flop.
And he check folds to Tom's trip aces. Tom speaks 5 languages. This is his first Alpha 8 appearance. Steve Silverman under the gun here, lays down to Jason Kuhn. Jack 10 suited. And he's gonna make it 14,000. Seaver just calls with pocket 9s.
I like that play from Scott.
Look at this, pocket kings for Isaac Haxton.
Isaac actually 3-bets a little bit less often than some of the other players. He likes to see a lot of flops and mix it up after the flop.
He's gonna 3-bet it here to 52,000. And Tom McDonald looks down at ace-king offsuit.
Huge hand here for Tom. I think 4-betting to try to induce an all-in, or moving in himself is relatively reasonable. And unlucky for him, he's run into the pocket kings of Isaac Haxton. He's gonna be a big dog to stay alive here.
Tom not concerned at all about the raise, the flat call, and then the 3-bet.
I call.
I'm not sure it's a question of being concerned as much as it is just his hand is strong enough to move in. I think he could plausibly 4-bet rather than move in, but regardless, it's going to require a very strong hand from Ike to call, and obviously Ike with 2 kings not going to fold. Tom at risk for his tournament life here. No aces have been mucked so far, though, so we know there's 3 in the deck.
Oh, and there's one of them right away on the flop, Olivier.
Just like that, the fortunes have flipped, and now Tom is in the driver's seat for an absolutely monster pot. This pot for the chip lead here.
Only one king left in the deck, and oh, that's close, but not quite. As the Queen of Diamonds rolls off on the river, and Tom Mcdonald is gonna vault way up the leaderboard.
Into first place.
And that's gonna put a massive dent in Isaac Haxton's stack. While they count down the stacks, we'll step aside and return to St. Kitts with more high-stakes action in a moment. Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Welcome back to continuing coverage of A8 St. Kitts, brought to you by ClubWPT.com, where you can play with your friends for free. Log on to ClubWPT.com and start having fun.
Speaking of having fun, Olivier, I know that's exactly what our players have been doing up until this point, but something tells me down to just one table, things are going to get a little bit more serious.
Yeah, as always, as we approach the money bubble, the fun level goes down and the tension level goes up. I think we're going to see that here with just 4 players left before we burst that bubble.
Yeah, top 5 places will be paid, $2.7 million in the prize pool and over $1 million going to first place. Single table action starts with Fabian Quass on the button, Steven Silverman and Jason Kuhn both in the blinds. Those blinds are still at 3 and 6,000 with a 1K ante. Action is folded all the way around to Fabian Quass, and he's got hard 8, pocket 4s.
Easy open on the button with a pocket pair.
He's going to make it 12,000, min raising.
All in.
And Steve Silverman wastes no time moving all in.
Cool.
Fabian snap calls, and they both turn their hands up.
Silverman making a move with a baby suited ace. I like this play. It's always got decent equity when called.
Here comes the flop. It has an ace and a 4 in it. Fabian Quass way out in front with a set. You see that just 3% figure for Steve Silverman. He's in a world of hurt, but look at this. A little light at the end of the tunnel, an ace on the turn. Means he's rooting for a deuce or the board to pair to stay alive, but can't connect on the end. And we are down to our official Alpha 8, courtesy of Steven Silverman's bust out.
Good luck.
Well, Steve Silverman will bid adieu to his fellow poker colleagues and, of course, $200,000 as he rebought in this particular event. But the silver lining, Olivier, he gets to go speak to Lynn Gilmartin.
Stephen, you were pretty handcuffed all day with that short stack. It must have been a little frustrating for you.
Yeah, you know, I had a few spots to go in and pick up some chips, but final hand, I just ran into a hand that could call and didn't win.
Oh. Now, you have won one of these trophies before. What does it feel like to win an Alpha 8 trophy?
It feels pretty good. I mean, you get all of the chips, you win. Like, you couldn't really go better than that.
So. A lot of cash.
Yeah, so pretty good, I would say.
Well, Olivier, we are down to our Alpha 8. What do you expect from these remaining players?
Well, since the level of competition is so universally tough, I think it's really a function of the chip stacks. Both Mike Mcdonald and Jason Kuhn have healthy stacks, but our chip leader is actually one of the more lesser-known players, Tom Mcdonald, so we'll have to see how he plays as we get closer into the money. Another player I'm looking to is Philip Gruesome. He's had an incredible amount of success lately, and if he gets a hold of some chips, he could be a real danger.
It's going to be a bloodbath, a bit of cannibalism in the ranks.
The final table will be in full swing next time as we progress towards bursting that money bubble and paying out all the cash. For Ali Najad and Olivier Busquet, I'm Lynn Gilmartin. See you next time. Poker's most exclusive competition has floated into the Caribbean. It's now sink or swim time for our super high rollers. This is WPT Alpha 8. Welcome to the lovely island of St. Kitts. The magnificent enclave of Christophe Harbour, along with the Royal Beach Casino, is hosting our Super High Roller event. Tournament officials are just about to start our 8-handed final table. But before they do, let's check in with A8's own elite poker pundits, Ali Najad and Olivier Busquet, who have the inside track on all the action over in the ClubWPT.com skybox. Hi, guys.
Hey, Lynn. It's good to be with you. Now, I know that you've yet to see any sharks in the water, but that doesn't mean we haven't seen plenty of them on land at the Alpha 8 event here in St. Kitts, many of whom have been enjoying themselves around the island, partaking in bocce ball and flyboarding and any number of other fun things there are to do here. Our group who have busted out started a charity event, so everybody's still in action. Our Alpha 8 is set. We've got $2.7 million up for grabs, and only the top 5 are going to get paid. First prize over $1 million. And with so much talent in the field right now, can you even pick a favorite?
Well, it's tough to pick a favorite, like you said. This table is incredibly talented. A bunch of really young, but at the same time still experienced and accomplished poker players are really at the top of their game. I think if there's a favorite to be picked, it has to be Tom Mcdonald. He's our current chip leader and actually the player we actually know the least about. Also, Jason Kuhn and Mike Mcdonald have healthy stacks of their own. And Philip Gruesome, of course, our London champion, is always very dangerous and has a decent stack himself.
Now, you didn't mention Isaac Haxton, but you and I both know he's a guy that if he has any chips whatsoever, he's currently on the short stack, he can be dangerous. Getting a look at the leaderboard, there are a lot of flags spread out amongst this highly international field of talent. Isaac Haxton on the short stack. Tom Mcdonald is the chip leader. Button is on Fabian Quas. American Isaac Haxton, first to act, lays it down here. And the Brit, Tom Mcdonald. Well, he didn't like his hand there, as Timothy Adams from Canada also folds.
Very solid and competent pro.
Also from Canada, Mike Mcdonald, who looks down at ace-queen offsuit.
I like how Mike got dressed up for this final table.
And raises it up to 18,000. Might know him as Timex if you play online. And one of the Germans, Fabian Quas, with 10-9 suited on the button.
Part of that group of 4 or 5 Germans traveling the world, playing all the super high buy-in tournaments and massacring them in the last couple of years.
With 10-9 suited, he makes the call. We saw a laydown there from American Jason Kuhn.
Probably the fittest player on the tour, known for his athletics. And
Scott Seaver wants to defend for another 10K with 6 deuce suited.
Scott known for defending a little bit wider than most players.
Oh, and look at this. 2 6s on the flop. Trips for Scott Seaver. He checks it over to Mcdonald, who checks to Fabian.
A little surprised that Mike checked after raising pre-flop.
Fabian Quas studied at Ludwig Maximilians University in Munich. Math and economics were his major, which no doubt played a role in how proficient he's been in poker with over $3 million in tourney earnings. He's bet 30,000 into the pot of 66.
Obviously not going to get rid of Scott after flopping 3 6s. Scott deciding just to call and play his hand slow.
Mike knows when he's not wanted, lays it down and leaves these 2 heads up. Second diamond on the turn. Scott checks.
This is a board that Fabian could theoretically pursue, but decides to play it safe after Scott's flop call.
Both players check, and the river is a jack.
At this point, Scott most likely going to go for value, trying to get a call from Fabian if he had an 8 or a hand like 2 7s or 2 9s.
Well, Scott bets 70,000, but won't get paid off.
They seem like they're having so much more fun than we are.
Well, Seaver pointing out that at the charity table, the mood is festive.
You folded 6-9 apart?
Who folded that? Who folded that?
So festive, in fact, that the table is trying to force Max Altergott to play 6-9 suited.
You're even German.
Disgrace, Max.
Every single hand. Okay. I changed. I take his hand. Oh my God.
Well, Igor is actually trying to take Max Altergott's 6-9 suited and play it. Not sure that's permissible, at least not at our Alpha 8 final table.
I don't think it's advisable when all the players have seen the hand either.
Somehow I feel like Kurganov could still win the hand. He's a guy that could do it. Meanwhile, action has been folded around to Mike Mcdonald, who looks down at another playable hand, ace-jack suited. He's going to raise to 18,000, and it's ace-jack offsuit for Fabian. How do you play ace-jack?
I think you really have 2 options. I think it's too strong of a hand to fold, so I think you could call or 3-bet. With ace-jack offsuit, I like 3-betting.
And so does Fabian as he makes it 45,000 to go.
Fabian's ranges, I've noticed with playing him, are actually a little bit similar to mine. This is the type of hand that I would 3-bet with as well.
Action's on Mike. You notice there's a 3% figure in front of each hand. More often than not, these two are going to chop a pot. Mike is going to call the extra 27,000 and take the flop heads up and out of position.
I agree with Mike's play as well with ace-jack suited. Definitely strong enough to see a flop here, as deep as both players are.
And that flop is ace-queen 5. Both players spike an ace. Mike first to act. Mike checks.
Now, obviously, both players have the same hand. The only way one player can win the hand outright at showdown is if Fabienne hits 2 diamonds and makes a runner-runner flush.
Fabienne checks.
It's a little bit of a surprising check there.
Third diamond on the turn gives Fabienne the only flush draw.
I would like a check if I had a stronger hand, maybe a set of queens or a set of aces, or a weaker hand, like just a pair of 10s or a pair of jacks. But now you put yourself in a little bit of an awkward position if your opponent shows aggression. You're not sure if he's showing aggression because you've shown weakness or because they actually have a hand.
But it's Mike who's taking control and betting 50,000.
Pretty easy call for Fabienne on the turn. The real question is, depending on what comes on the river, how the hand plays out. If Mike shows a lot of aggression, Fabienne could level himself into thinking that he's beat.
Well, Fabienne makes the call. A real blank on the river, the deuce of clubs.
It's about as much of a brick as you could ask for.
Oh, Mcdonald moving all in.
The interesting play from Mike to move in here. It's a strong bet. It really suggests strength. Obviously, on the flip side, Mike could be bluffing, but from Fabienne's point of view, sitting there with ace-jack, he doesn't think that Mike could have a hand that's worse than his and betting for value. Basically, he thinks his ace-jack is just a bluff catcher.
At the charity table, they're taking interest in this hand.
He's a German. He's a German. He's not calling. He is king.
I don't see how I can fold. You would have calmed down by now if you were value betting round.
Fabienne trying to get a read off Mike. The way he's talking, he could even have ace-king like this. Mike could be a little bit nervous that he gets called by a better hand.
No, I want to fold.
Doesn't look too nervous. Looks pretty stoic.
Doesn't look that comfortable either, though.
No, I want to fold.
Doesn't help when your opponent's right next to you at the table either, but Fabienne lays down the chop.
The fans want you to show the cards.
Every time there's a big hand, all the players at the table always want to see what the players had.
Yeah, it's good for business.
That information is very valuable.
Mike had an ace of diamonds.
Mike always
whatever.
had it.
I bet you he had it.
Mike check raise.
I bet you he had it.
I think the best indicator for Mike having it is that Fabi folded.
Yeah, but he may have folded the chop. Oh, I doubt it.
I would have called.
Fabienne's still looking at Mike, trying to find out whether or not he made the right play.
That's the problem with folding on the river, is that you don't ultimately get that information, so you're always a little bit curious. But again, I think the key to the hand was the flop, where Fabienne checked back. I think if Fabienne just bets on the flop, Mike calls on the turn, maybe it goes check-check, and then they can just put one more bet in, and it's a much more reasonable play than letting Mike take the aggression on the turn and then putting him to the test on the river.
Meanwhile, Mike opens his third straight pot, this time for a raise to 20,000 with pocket 10s, and Jason Kuhn looks down at pocket 9s, makes the call. Over to Isaac Haxton, who's got ace-5 suited and lays down.
Yeah, I like that fold from Ike. From an early position raise and a call, you're likely to get dominated, and with Ike's chip stack, he's really not getting the implied odds to just call and see a flop.
Over to Philip Gruesome in the big blind with ace-7 suited. 12K for him to call.
This is a surprising fold from Philip. Philip definitely plays a wider range of hands than most players. I'm very surprised to see that fold.
So it's heads up to the flop, which is king 9-5. Jason Kuhn has a set.
Yeah, Jason's flipped the script here on the flop, turning his underpair into a monster.
And with one overcard out there, Mike continuation bets 25,000.
The real problem for Jason in terms of getting value from this hand is that, from Mike's point of view, there are a number of hands that Jason could have that don't have to be as strong as they are that still beat Mike's hand. Hands like king-queen or king-jack suited. Those are all reasonable hands that Jason could have, and they obviously beat 2 10s here.
Board pairs on the turn, giving Kuhn a full house, and Mike thinks he likes that card.
Definitely. This is a card that makes it less likely, for example, that Jason had pocket fives. Very unlikely that Jason just has 1 5 in his hand given the action. And it's not a card that hits many draws. Not a spade, not a hand like, let's say, a 10 or a queen. 10 obviously giving Mike a set.
Mike checks on the turn, and with his full house, Jason bets 55,000.
From Mike's point of view, Jason probably has some sort of draw, some sort of flush draw or straight draw, or a hand better than his, like king queen or king jack. Mike, out of position there, without much equity, without much way to improve his hand, decides to take the conservative route and fold. I like that play from Mike Mcdonald.
Solid laydown by Timex, showing us why it is that he's managed to make waves in the poker community. He's earned plenty of money over the course of his career. To be specific, $5 million in live tournament earnings as of the start of this particular event. Not too shabby for 24 years of age. Back at the final table, Timothy Adams looks down at pocket kings. This deck seems replete with some pretty solid starting hands. Timothy has put in a raise to 16,000. That's a min raise. Fold it around to Jason. Jason Kuhn will defend his big blind with ace-3 suited. And to the flop we go heads up.
Pretty standard action so far.
And the flop is 8 trade deuce. Pair of threes for Jason, who checks.
He also has a backdoor straight draw and a backdoor flush draw.
Tim bets 20,000 with the overpair. And Jason quickly calls. You ever get any information from an opponent based on the speed by which he makes a call?
It depends. It's very tough to get any real information just from one hand, but if you see someone play a number of hands and they make different decisions based on the strength of their hand, you definitely can pick some things up.
And look at this turn card. It's a third heart, but it's an ace. He checks to Tim, who checks behind him with the nut flush draw and the 2 kings. And now look at the river, Olivier. A set of kings for Tim Adams.
Yeah, now that ace of hearts was a very dangerous card. It completed the 4-5 straight, obviously completed the flush. And Jason could have had a hand like ace-4 or ace-5 to make a pair of aces. So I like the check from Timothy Adams. Now the question is he going to raise or just call with his rivered set of kings?
Yeah, Jason has bet 33,000. It looks like Tim is going to play it safe and just call, hoping he isn't up against a straight or a flush, and he'll see the good news.
Timothy Adams known to be a little bit more conservative than most players, but at the same time didn't risk running into a better hand with Jason Kuhn.
Our high-stakes action will continue from St. Kitts in a moment. Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Monkeys! Oh my god, can we stop, please? Oh, look at them! Look at all the monkeys. I've never really seen a live monkey before. Oh, they're scared of me. They're scared of me.
To be fair, Lynn Gilmartin can be terrifying.
I know, I was scared of her the first time we met.
I'm still scared of her.
No, she's a sweetheart.
This is true. Not sweethearts, these 8 guys, especially not when there's over $1 million up for grabs for first place. 697,000 represents the chip lead belonging to Tom McDonald, and it's the old McDonald's 1-2, Mike in second.
No relation between the two.
And no EI, or O. Are you familiar with that song?
No. Would you mind singing it for me?
I would. Tom McDonald first to act. 8 deuce suited, not going to cut it. Deuce 5 off for Timothy Adams, who mucks. And Philip Gruesome laying down the ace 9 offsuit. Is that a function of us being near the bubble?
Definitely. Who would have thought that Philip was super, super tight when it came down to the money?
Well, there is some context. Not going to be super tight. Fabian Quas, who's got the shortest stack at the table right now, about 17 big blinds. And with pocket 10s, rather than move all in, he's just going to make it 23 to go.
Yeah, I think both of his options are reasonable, moving in or making a small raise here.
He's piqued Jason Kuhn's interest, who's sitting on ace-jack offsuit.
I think if I were Jason, I'd probably move in here with ace-jack. That's probably why I'm in the booth and Jason's there at the table. Wow, what a fold by Jason.
Wow.
That's the type of play I think that separates these players, these really top caliber players, from the second and third tier live tournament players. That ability to make that fold in that situation.
All in.
Call.
Meanwhile, it's folded around to Isaac Haxton, who looks down at 2 jacks and puts Fabian all in. Fabian quickly makes the call, and to the flop we go, heads up. King 8 tray with 2 hearts. Quas in a world of hurt. The turn card is a queen, and Fabian has 2 outs once to stay alive. Can he connect? No, he cannot.
Good game, Fabian.
A 4th heart on the river, but neither player with a flush. And Fabian becomes the first casualty of the final table.
Very unlucky spot for Fabian with just 17 big blinds. Really a cooler there against Isaac Haxton's pocket jacks. Nothing really he can do.
This makes the path to the money a little bit easier on our remaining 7 players, but by no means easy.
At this point, at this tournament, all the amateurs have busted, and we're just down to really world-class player after world-class player.
Jason Kuhn under the gun and first to act. He's got Queen 9 offsuit and mucks it over to Scott Seaver, who has Ace Jack offsuit. And Seaver's gonna raise it to 22,000. Over to Isaac, who has pocket jacks again. Just calls.
This is a little bit surprising, I think, from Ike to smooth call with pocket jacks. I prefer to see a 3-bet here.
Action's on Tom. Well, Mcdonald has accepted the invitation with pocket 3s.
Obviously, Ike is one of the best post-flop players in the world, so if anybody's going to be able to navigate a multi-way pot with pocket jacks, it should be him.
Tim and Phillip have both folded over to Mike McDonald, who has the 3rd pocket pair in this hand pre-flop, 6s. He'll defend his big blind for an extra 12K, and will take the flop 4-way. 1 burn down, 3 cards off the top of the stub, and a 6. 6, 9, 8. Mike McDonald way out in front.
Yeah, it looks like a pot is going to develop between Mike and Ike here. Obviously, Isaac with the overpair and Mike with the flopped set of 6s.
Mike checks, Scott checks. And now, how do you feel about this board texture and 3 players along for the ride pre-flop if you have 2 jacks?
Well, it's two-sided. On one side, obviously you feel relatively comfortable because you do have an overpair. But on the flip side, because players are playing so conservatively, you expect most players to have somewhat decent hands, and a lot of them are going to include pocket pairs. So you need to be at least somewhat wary of a flop set.
With that said, and 100,000 in the middle, Ike is going to fire 55K. 2 3s hit the muck rather quickly, and now it's back over to Mike.
It's a pretty healthy bet there. Not too large, but definitely signals some strength. It'll be interesting to see how Mike plays. I think he can reasonably play it slow and try to trap, or play it fast and obviously get stacks in. He's more than comfortable doing that with his hand.
And there is the icy stare of Mike McDonald.
All in.
Ivy-esque almost, and he announces all in.
Wow, that is a big, big bet. In this moment, I can't imagine Mike not having a strong hand doing this.
Yeah, I call.
Wow, and Ike does call here. He's not going to be happy when he sees Mike's set.
No, that would explain us having to bleep. Ike displeased after getting a look at Mike's cards.
I think this is a little bit of a mistake in this moment here. It's such a big pot. It's such a critical moment.
But it's not over yet, Olivier. A queen on the turn means Ike can win this pot with a 10 or a jack. Instead, it's a 7. And Haxton with yet another disappointing finish in these Alpha 8 events.
Yeah, he was the money bubble in Florida, now 2 from the money. Very disappointing finish for Isaac. Obviously one of the best players in the world, just not getting the luck he needed at the right time.
He busts in 7th place, and we are officially at the money bubble.
Isaac, was it a hand you could ever have gotten away from?
Well, I definitely could have re-raised pre-flop. I'm definitely content with the way I played the hand. I'm not certain it was right, but if it was wrong, it wasn't by much.
Now, of the remaining players, who do you think is performing really well?
I mean, these are all great players. Everybody's playing well.
Any picks on who you think will take it down?
Oh, I guess Mike's got all the chips now, so.
Yeah. Go with the easy answer.
Yeah.
No underdogs here. All right, well, great to see you play. Sorry to see you bust.
6 players remaining, with just one of them going home completely empty-handed.
Find out how Isaac Haxton's obsession with one game led him down the path to becoming a poker pro. Log on to clubwpt.com/alpha8 for Lynn's exclusive interview on the A8 Clip of the Week. clubwpt.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
So this is Brimstone Hill Fortress. It was so strongly defended.
Yeah.
Because after the fort was captured by the French in 1782, the British strengthened the...
Oh, there's a monkey. They really do just hang around.
Yeah, they're scared of Lynn. And so are we, remember? Speaking of scared, none of these 6 players are feeling that right now, except maybe Timothy Adams, who's in for $200,000 and in 6th place right now with the money bubble looming.
Not an enviable position on the money bubble against this level of competition, being the short stack.
If you're Timothy, is that on your mind right now, Olivier?
The fact that I'm 200,000 in?
And on the money bubble right now, and
the money bubble's on everyone's mind for sure. The fact that I've invested 200,000 is just not relevant. That's a sunk cost that I can't change. The only thing I can change are the poker decisions that I make at the table. And as the short stack, you know, I'm hoping that one of the bigger stacks gets entangled in a cooler, but besides that, I'm looking for a spot with a good hand and a good opportunity to double up in chips and give myself some breathing room.
Speaking of looking for a spot, Scott Seaver has apparently found something on the back of one of his cards.
Sometimes in live poker, cards get little blemishes or marks on them, and obviously if there's one way to recognize a card relative to another, you got to get rid of that deck and put another one in there.
Gruesome calls.
I mean, no one will ever see it, but it's marked. Yeah, get a new deck. Look at that.
Mike McDonald opened under the gun with ace-10 suited, raising to 22,000, and was called by Jason Kuhn's pocket 6s. Also along for the ride is Philip Gruesome, who's hit this flop pretty hard.
Yeah, Philip flopping a flush draw. We actually saw in a similar spot earlier, Philip fold from the big blind, ace-7 suited. Probably didn't want to be dominated by a stronger ace. In this situation with 7-4, willing to take a flop, and we'll see how the hand plays out.
He has checked, as has Mike, and Jason is now betting 45,000. You see that steely gaze from Mike McDonald, always sizing up his opponents. Philip has made the call.
And Mike doesn't have much of anything here. I can't imagine him continuing in the hand. But as the big stack, you are always looking for situations or opportunities to put pressure on the medium stacks.
Down to heads up. And the turn is a queen.
That card neither player is going to like. It completes the Jack-10 straight and is obviously an overcard to Jason Kuhn's pocket 6s.
And they both check it. Here comes the river. Look
Wow.
at this card, a 6 of spades.
An incredible card.
Philip makes the flush and Jason makes a set.
Surprised that Philip checks there.
Quickly.
And Jason checks as well. What is going on?
I win.
I win.
For Jason to check a rivered set of 6s, it looks like a brilliant play. It looks like he got away losing the minimum in a cooler situation. And technically that is true. But when he doesn't value bet a hand as strong as a rivered set, he's essentially saying that he only value bets the nuts, and basically that implies that he's not really bluffing ever. So I would prefer Jason to try to get value from that hand. If he happens to run in to a bigger hand from Philip, who checked 3 times, then so be it.
Jason folding on this occasion, as is Scott. Over to Tom McDonald with pocket 4s. He'll open for a raise to 20,000, and now over to that short stack of Timothy Adams. He's got an ace on the button.
Yeah, Tim with just over 22 big blinds. I think ace-3 offsuit is too weak of a hand.
Philip folds the small blind, and now Mike McDonald taking his time and defending his blind with queen 10 off.
The first McDonald clash.
Now both Mike and Tom McDonald are the big stacks here. Tom starting the hand with over 600,000 and Mike a little under 900,000.
Mike flops top 2 pair and checks it, while Tom is staring at 3 overcards.
Now Tom's hand is relatively weak on this board and doesn't have much opportunity to improve. Really just a 4 would improve his hand. So I like taking a shot here, trying to just win the pot outright if Mike didn't flop anything. Fortunately for him, we know that Mike has 2 pairs. Just a question of how he's going to play it.
Now, Tom has bet 32,000. That's a pretty healthy stab.
Yeah, it's on the larger size of a continuation bet, definitely compared to some of the other players. Mike not messing around with top 2 pair, and obviously Tom couldn't continue with just a pair of 4. So nice pot there for Mike McDonald.
He always starts tied for first, and it never really changes.
Our high-stakes action will continue from St. Kitts in a moment.
Looking for high roller excitement without the high roller risk?
Then go to ClubWPT.com and sign up for our Alpha 8 High Roller Play Chip Tournament for a chance to be crowned champion.
There's a seat waiting for you right now at ClubWPT.com.
You're scared of me. Magic, I really want to hold a monkey. These ones are scared of me. Oh, hello, beautiful. Oh, he's wearing a nappy. Oh, you are just gorgeous. Oh, look at him. What's his name?
Johnny.
Johnny. Look at his little fingernails. He's just like a little person.
It's claimed there's about 20,000 monkeys on the island.
20,000.
If the monkeys could vote, the monkeys would be in power at the moment.
Where in the world can you feed a monkey a banana just like this? This is incredible.
I'm pushing for a monkey election. I don't know about you.
If the monkeys could vote, the monkeys would be in power. That was amazing. That was awesome.
All right, let's get serious. 6 players remain at the final table. It is the money bubble. 1 player going home empty-handed, and 1 player out of these 6 is in for $200,000. Ironically enough, it is the short stack of Timothy Adams. 5th place is worth $217,000 and change, and the action is on Philip Gruesome. He has $490,000 in front of him, $22,000 of which he's going to stick out there with ace-jack offsuit. Folded to Jason Kuhn, who looks down at pocket 10s and just calls.
Yep, more conservative play, as we've seen time and time again on the money bubble or close to it. Players electing to play a little bit tighter and a little bit more conservative.
Understandably?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the money bubble is big. The equity difference between 5th and 6th is huge, so strategically it makes sense, but I think some of these players have taken it a little bit too far in certain situations.
Would flat calling with 2 10s be one of those examples?
No, I think this is pretty reasonable.
The flop is ace, king, 6. Philip out flopping Jason, but he's going to check, and Kuhn staring at 2 overcards, checks behind him.
Yeah, kind of a unorthodox check there from Philip after raising and flopping top pair, but
turn card is the 8 of diamonds.
A card both players won't mind, giving both of them pretty decent flush draws. Jason, after the flop check and the 3rd diamond, is going to call this bet here from Philip.
30,000 a man, an extra 60 into the pot.
With these big blinds, the pot is ballooned up to 125,000 with just 1 post-flop bet.
And the river gives Gruesome aces and jacks.
This is another bad card for Jason, a 3rd overcard. Obviously a good card for Philip with 2 pair. Expect him to value bet here.
Just how much will Philip bet? How about 60,000, just shy of half the pot?
It's a little bit on the smaller side, but he's really just trying to get called here. Aren't too many hands that Jason can call with, but I think Philip's hand is too strong to check. Jason doesn't have too much to think about. Potentially he could be thinking about making a play and raising here, but I think calling with just 2 10s is just not advisable. Jason realizes that and lets it go.
Philly, Philly, Philly.
Oh yeah, that's it. A bunch of things help.
Would be an interesting call if I snap you off with the queen 6 offsuit there, right? Yeah.
Kuhn lays down, as does Seaver. Tom McDonald will do the same.
And with the blinds up to 6 and 12, Timothy Adams sitting on just under 17 big blinds here.
And king queen offsuit. Good for all of his chips. Oh, the small blind out of the way, but it's cooler time as Mike McDonald wakes up with ace king in the big blind.
Really unfortunate spot here.
Mike's not the one you want to be having snap call.
Very reasonable move in here with king queen off, but very unlucky to run into Mike McDonald's monster in the big blind.
But since that Tim's getting 5th, is he winning or chopping, guys?
I might hit a queen.
I think winning. I don't think chop. I think win.
I might hit a queen. Just maybe.
Timothy obviously looking for a queen here to stay alive and double up. Otherwise, he will be our bubble boy and will go home empty-handed.
8-4 tray on the flop. Not what Timothy Adams had in mind, and he's queen hunting. The turn, no help.
Not too good.
And now it's 3 outs once for Timothy. Can he hit? He cannot, and the bubble has burst.
Yeah.
As Timothy Adams will say goodbye to not only these 5 other players who are all now in the money, but $200,000 as well.
Oh boy. Yeah, and the rest of the field here, the remaining 5 players, breathing a sigh of relief. I expect the very conservative play we've seen thus far to turn into much more aggressive play as these players now vie for the $1 million first place prize.
Tim, that's such a tough spot to bust. I'm sorry, it's got to be rough just missing out on the money.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, it happens with these things, and it's not fun, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Great, it's beautiful here. It's really beautiful. Playing outside in St. Kitts, I can't complain about anything right now.
I love this place. Playing poker here is amazing.
We got a very special place here at Crystal Harbor. Even the pros who are out there playing bocce ball, they're happy.
Yes,
So
can you never see that? That's
people
awesome.
getting their pants taken down on interviews, things like that are happening here because it's just such a wonderful place. I'm very lucky to be here, and I'm very glad it happened.
It was certainly all fun and games when everyone arrived here in St. Kitts, and as we approached the money bubble, things got a little bit tense. Where are we now, Olivia?
Well, I think all the players can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief as they're guaranteed a pretty decent payday. So there's a little bit of a mix between a more relaxed atmosphere, but they're also focused on that $1 million first place prize.
Scott Seaver and Jason Kuhn currently sitting on the short stacks. Mike Mcdonald, the chip leader.
This looks familiar. This all looks very familiar to me.
Philip Gruesome and Scott Seaver, of course, are first and second place finishers in London, with Philip ultimately taking that title.
Tom McDonald folds 7-4 suited, and now Philip Gruesome looks down at 8-9 suited on the button.
Pretty strong holding for Philip on the button.
And he'll raise it to 26,000. McDonald folds the small blind. Over to Jason Kuhn with Queen 4 suited.
Jason a little bit short stacked to start this hand.
And Jason's going to defend. Is this something he'd do with Queen 4 offsuit?
I think Queen 4 off is a little bit borderline. Queen 4 suited definitely strong enough to play though.
Flop is 2 aces and a king with 2 diamonds. Jason checks to Philip.
Pretty good flop for Philip Gruesome, flopping a diamond flush draw. Jason, though, with queen high and 2 backdoor draws, backdoor straight and backdoor heart draw.
He's faced with a bet of 25,000 from Philip and is going to make the call here. And the turn, the 9 of hearts, giving Kuhn the heart draw and giving Philip the best hand now.
Both players like that 9. Though neither player really likes this king, as Philip's pair of 9s has been counterfeited. Jason now hoping that Philip will check and that his queen high will be good enough.
What are you thinking if you're Philip here? Any chance you can buy the pot?
I think with Philip's check on the turn, he doesn't have a lot of credible hands to represent here on the river. So I don't like a bluff here on the river. I think a give up is probably the best play, even though you know there's a very small chance that you can win.
Philip clearly agrees, shuts down, and lets Jason take the pot.
It's always nice, you're Jason Kuhn, when you don't really make much of a hand, but you're still able to take the pot with just queen high.
If this is not on, this wouldn't be on television, I would definitely bluff it. But on TV, they always want to be.
That TV equity, that TV showdown value.
No, they always want to be heroes on the TV, you know. So they're more likely to call a queen high on TV than.
Well, I'm definitely more likely to be a hero than most, especially on the TV.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I just want everybody to see I can do it.
You know, the players are referencing a general dynamic whereby the sense is that other players don't want to be bluffed when they're on television. It's a little bit of an embarrassing thing. So because of that, they're more likely to make big, or as Philip calls them, hero calls. I think with these players having so much experience in playing at such a high level, I think they're a little bit overestimating how likely they are to be hero called.
You always look dumber folding than calling. You always look dumber folding than calling. Like if you fold and you're wrong, you look really dumb. But if you call and you're wrong, you're like, oh, whatever.
Tom McDonald lays down the queen deuce suited, and Gruesome with another playable hand, this time pocket sevens. As you see the impressive stack of Mike McDonald, over 1 million in chips there. And Gruesome raises again, this time to 28,000. Why change it?
I think if his sizing is a little bit bigger, it has to do with two things. One, he's trying to disincentivize the big blind from calling, and Scott Seaver is a very, very skilled and good player. And then two, he's a little bit in early position, so with more players to get through, you might want to make it a slightly bigger size.
Got it. Seaver defends his blind with the ace-deuce offsuit and the flop, 9-7-4, a set for Philip Gruesome.
Yeah, monster hand for Philip here. Not much of anything for Scott, just ace-high and a couple backdoor draws.
Seaver checks it over to Philip. They're very familiar with one another.
These are the two guys that got heads up in London, and a very interesting check by Philip on the flop. I actually don't mind this check. He wants to be able to check some relatively weak hands, so because of that, he's also checking some monster hands in order to avoid transparency.
A little bit of balance as he fills up on the turn. Scott Seaver now drawing dead. Little does he know that, though, as he takes a 35K shot at this pot.
Not a huge fan of this bet. Scott does have ace-high, which does have some showdown value, but also he has very little equity, which means it's very tough for him to improve to a good hand. Philip obviously going nowhere on the turn with his full house. And this 8 is going to spell disaster for Scott, as it's a card that's much more likely to help his range than Philip's range. And so I can't imagine him giving up here.
All in. You win.
Oh, and Scott moves all in. A snap call from Philip. And rather quickly, Scott Seaver is eliminated.
Scott, good thing you're campus.
So we're down to just 4 players after Scott Seaver's unsuccessful bluff attempt against Philip Gruesome. And Olivier, we haven't seen a lot of that in this event.
Yeah, I think part of the reason that people weren't playing as aggressively before the bubble burst is because there was so much to lose. Going home empty-handed was really not something any of the players wanted to face. What all the players are really vying for is first place and that $1 million prize. And after Philip checked the flop, Scott saw that as an opportunity to try to accumulate chips. Unfortunately for him, obviously, Philip had a very big hand, and Scott ended up our 5th place finisher.
Over $1 million still up for grabs. We return to St. Kitts with more in a moment. Welcome back to the WPT Alpha 8 event here in St. Kitts. Let's get back to the final table with the rest of these folks still competing for that over $1 million first place prize. And there they are. 1 Brit, 1 German, 1 Canadian, and 1 American in this very multinational lineup. Action on Philip Gruesome. Now bear in mind the giant stack of Mike McDonald, who looks down at 6-4 suited. McDonald raising it to 25,000. Not exactly a premium holding.
No, but four-handed and with his big chip lead, I don't mind this play at all.
269,000. All in.
Jason Kuhn is moving all in with king-queen suited over the top, and that makes quick work of Mike McDonald's hand.
Yeah, Jason with a little under 25 big blinds. Obviously a very reasonable play there with king-queen suited.
Remember that $20,000 sit and go that the players that busted out started a while back? Well, it just crowned a champion. And guess who? Michael Singh, the amateur, who's going to go home a net winner. But the real winner, Olivier, the victims of Hurricane Haiyan. They've earned over $60,000 courtesy of these players and their charity.
It's always nice when you win a side event, especially when it's organized ad hoc by the players who bust out of the main event.
I thought that was kind of a nice touch. Mike McDonald very methodically deposits 28,000.
Strong hand there for the chip leader with 2 9s.
Look at this. Jason Kuhn with ace-king offsuit.
I can't really envision a scenario where these two players don't get their hands all in, and Jason will be at risk for his tournament life.
Yeah, Mike has Jason well covered as the chip leader. Kuhn patiently deciding to 3-bet to 66,000 total.
Jason actually does have a stack where he could theoretically 3-bet and fold. So I actually like this 3-bet here. could have just gone all in, but trying to get Mike to commit with a worse hand here.
All in.
And Mike is going to put Jason all in. Of course, Kuhn had a plan that if that happened, he would snap call, which is exactly what he's done. And it's 2 overs against a pair. Mike just shy of a 3-2 favorite heading to the flop.
We know that Tom is folded an ace. That's why the numbers are a little bit worse for Jason than they otherwise would be.
And here it comes. Jack in the window, followed by another jack and a 5.
Pretty good flop for 2 9s.
Not so much for Jason Kuhn, whose tournament life is at risk. Turn card is an 8. And Jason Kuhn needs an ace or a king. Not gonna happen, however.
Yeah, man.
Good game.
And a frustrated Jason Kuhn, who mentioned that he runs terrible in these particular spots, never getting lucky. Obviously only going to feel that way more so now after he finishes in 4th place and earns just shy of $300,000. Let's send it down to our Lynn Gilmartin, who's with Jason now.
Jason, 4th place. You've almost tripled your money.
Yeah, it's not so bad. Anytime you can somehow pull out a 300K cash, it's a good result. And the final table I played really well, so I'm happy with it.
You sure did.
Yeah, cool with it.
All right.
Well, something tells me Jason Kuhn is a little bit disappointed with that outcome, but the real story right now, it's podium time. 3 players remain. Next payout, roughly $430,000. But that's not what these guys are thinking about, is it?
No, I think all 3 of our remaining players have their eyes dead set on that $1 million first place prize. If I have to give the edge to any player, it's definitely Mike Mcdonald. He's got just shy of $1.5 million in chips. He's running well. He's playing even better.
Well, we'll find out whether or not young Mike Mcdonald can earn his first Alpha 8 title when we continue next time from St. Kitts. On behalf of Lynn Gilmartin and Olivier Bousquet, I'm Ali Najad saying good night.